be a bit of a Barney. And I suspect Keir Starmer will try to hold on, but he's lost control now. There's no way back for him.
About Andy Burnham, David, obviously he isn't an MP, so he can't easily stand in a leadership contest, can he? That's the biggest problem that the Labour Party face, well, apart from a Prime Minister who's on his last death throes, if you like. But how do they bring Andy Burnham in a practical way so that he can stand? Because if they have a leadership contest without him, I think there's a lot of people in the Labour Party, a lot of people in the country, frankly, that would be entitled to be quite angry about that.
Well, I think the reason it's happening so quickly is to stop Andy Burnham. I think, you know, it's no coincidence it's supporters of Wes Streeting, who's an incredibly ambitious man, who are pushing this now. And the left of the party is quite angry about it. They wanted this kind of slow timetable to find a way of getting Andy Burnham back in. And, you know, it may well be that Keir Starmer's one legacy is that he blocked the man and Andy Burnham from being able to stand for Parliament earlier this year to come back and potentially save his party and maybe stop Nigel Farage. If Nigel Farage becomes Prime Minister, then, you know, Keir Starmer's decision back then is going to be absolutely crucial on that. I mean, Andy, he's not the perfect politician. I think he's frankly, you know, maybe a little overrated in some respects, but he's the one guy who could unite the Labour Party and the one guy who has the kind of charisma to kind of maybe change the dial on what's going on. But it's too late for him. There's no way. There's going to be a contest sooner rather than later, and that, in my view, will pitch Wes Streeting from the right of a party against Angela Rayner from the left of a party, most likely, and then Labour will be kind of caught in some sort of horrendous civil war.
Could anybody else realistically throw their hat in the ring, David, apart from Streeting and Rayner? How many people do you think will actually be there fancying their chances of having a go at the top job? Because I'm sure there won't just be the two of them.
There are other names. I mean, Ed Miliband's been talked about. I mean, he's a bit of a retread, but he's very popular within the party membership, less so amongst MPs. I ran a story a couple of weeks ago about Ed Miliband positioning himself, and the number of furious texts I got from MPs, Labour MPs, was astonishing, actually. But I mean, one outside chance, and we keep talking about this, but he's coming up quietly on the rails, is his Defence Minister, Al Carnes, who's an ex-Royal Marines commander. Now, I mean, he is an outside chance, but he's certainly picking up support amongst Labour MPs, especially the 2024 intake. So it could be an interesting one. He had a very cryptic tweet this morning on X showing a new sunrise, a kind of fresh start, and people were reading quite a lot into that.
Yeah, quite. That seems a little bit mischievous. Quite like the sound of him. Don't know an awful lot about Al Carnes. Do you know much about Al Carnes, Hilary?
Do not.
Simon?
No.
We may be having a little look at more than his social media account tonight. Quite like the sound of him. David Maddox, thank you so much. You are going to be a very busy boy for the next few days, so we really appreciate you staying up late for me and the Late Show Live this evening. Thank you so much, David. Right, before I move on, let's have a quick reminder of that extraordinarily terrible speech from Sir Keir Starmer earlier today. Have a listen.
Just as I take responsibility for the results, I also take responsibility for delivering the change that we promised. And I take responsibility for not walking away, not plunging our country into chaos as the Tories did time and again, chaos that did lasting damage to this country. A Labour government would never be forgiven for inflicting that on our country again.
It literally takes the phrase tone deaf to another level, that speech this morning. Everything that he focused on is the stuff that's winding people up. Everything he said I want more of is the stuff that we want less of, Prime Minister. It's time to go. Let's talk to former government advisor in Number 10, Rob Midgley. Rob, thank you so much. Now, you were a former government advisor in Number 10. Just remind us who that was under, Rob. And so what, in your experience, drawing upon your experience, what is happening in Number 10 tonight apart from the meeting takeaway?
Hi Bev, just to start with, Starmer is absolutely toast. I worked in Number 10 under Boris, Theresa, a bit of Rishi, a bit of Liz, and I've been through so many of these moments. And Downing Street right now will be in bunker mode. They'll be putting out the optics that everything is fine when it's actually burning inside. They'll be doing lots of these speeches. They've probably got a few lined up this weekend showing that everything is okay, but it's absolutely not okay, because when you've got a deputy prime minister, when you've got a home secretary saying the prime minister must resign, that only causes a domino effect. And, you know, I've witnessed this with Boris when he said, oh, I'm going to be here for another 10 years. And he was out by the end of the week. I remember that very, very clearly. But remember that, you know, once this momentum starts, and we've witnessed this before, once this momentum starts between ministers and secretaries of state, they'll all be doing deals with each other on who will be next in the administration, who wants a ministerial role in that next administration, and all the staff with them as well be trying to get their SPAD jobs lined up as well. So there'll be a lot of momentum gaining. Expect that 77 number to grow much bigger as more and more people get behind certain characters. And, you know, if Starmer stays, the government will limp on for another 2 years. It won't be able to achieve anything. We're very much a zombie government. And I think the best thing for him to do is to resign. And also, I think if he does resign, then a new character will come in and there'll be a general election within a year. And I think that'll be almost guaranteed that we may see a general election around October time if he resigns this week, if he resigns tomorrow, in fact.
Okay, that's interesting, Rob. So if he resigns tomorrow, because we get bogged down in the protocol at times like this, because the procedure is everything, isn't it, Rob, in these moments? Because it's not as simple as, you can't just kick Prime Minister Starmer out and then have Andy Burnham rock up with his removals van. It doesn't work like that. It might in America. It probably would happen. Things would happen a bit quicker here, to be fair. But that's not how we do it in the UK. Andy Burnham can't be in the running because he's not currently an MP. Is there any route, and I've been trying to research this today, and I don't think there is there no route under which Andy Burnham could quickly be in position to be considered for the prime ministerial job right now? And if not, who would you see the leadership contest being between?
Look, I'm not a big Labour expert. I believe an MP would have to resign in order for Andy Burnham to go in, and even then he would have to face his own sort of mini-election in that respect. I think there are strong cabinet ministers. I think Shemara Baboon would be a big contender. I think the Defence Secretary, John Healey, would be a very strong contender. He's been positioning himself for a matter of months now about this. He may be seen as a safe pair of hands. You know, as you know, with the Chagos issue, he actually took a very neutral stance with the whole thing. So there's been quite a lot of instances where he's portrayed himself as quite strong. So I would expect these characters to come out of the woodwork. I think Cabinet tomorrow will be a big moment, because if you've got 4 cabinet secretaries that are against him, that's only going to grow, and people will support whoever comes out first in public, and really get behind them with a team. And that's where it'll get interesting. But I think we'll only find out from whatever comes out of Cabinet tomorrow morning.
And like you say, they do it differently to the Conservatives. The Tories were able to swap people in and out of that bed in Number 10. Don't overthink that metaphor. But actually, I think what will happen here, if I had to predict, I think Starmer will probably go down whatever route means he stays there for 2 or 3 months while they have a leadership election, and he'll just drag it out with the usual dynamism that he brings to every situation. The country will be metaphorically, you know, will just be despairing whilst he just lingers on as long as he can. And And Rob, just one other question. Again, you may not know the answer to this because they say Labour do things differently. But if a Labour MP stood aside and triggered a by-election, would that allow Andy Burnham to stand in that by-election? And how quickly could that happen? Because that would probably be another 2 to 3 months, wouldn't it?
I'm not sure about MP procedures. I'm not the expert around that. But what I do think is that progress on the country will not be made. No matter what, we're not going to see any progress with the country while there's Labour infighting for months on end. Those taxes are going to keep rising. We're going to see a lot more infighting. There'll be a lot more rebellions. We'll see a lot more leaks coming out of the government as civil servants lose faith, as SPADs lose faith. I'm sure many journalists have contacts within government, and that will only increase. That will only lose more confidence inside, which means government just won't be able to function. It's pretty much a zombie government anyway. It just won't be able to function, and people won't be able to see any benefit in their lives in the next few months at least.
And in a way, Rob, that's effectively what Keir Starmer was trying to say today. That's what he was trying to argue. I can step down now, step aside, but you're just going to have chaos. But as Hillary said when he said that, well, we're already in a sea of chaos anyway. So what's new? Fascinating times. Rob Midgley, thank you so much for joining us on The Late Show Live, as usual. Hillary's still here with me. Simon Hankerson is still here with me as well. As we talk about this, the interesting names there, Hillary, that Rob was saying again, as also John Healey as in defence, he's a possibility.
I think John Healey's sort of like viewed as that steady force.
Yeah.
Steady, nothing dramatic. He's not going to make the kind of speeches Keir Starmer is. He's going to have nose to the grindstone and get the job done. Nothing exciting though, not particularly thrilling, but he's viewed, I think, as a solid candidate.
The question is, of course, what vision does any potential new Prime Minister come in with?
And no one's coming out with what Nigel Farage says, Britain is broken, we need to fix it, and what are we going to do with all these illegal immigrants? No one has even mentioned that on the Labour side.
No one's even said that. But we'll leave you with that cliffhanger because we're going to work out where we go next. We're going to take a little quick break, still to come this evening.
It's no wonder that across the UK, people feel that the system is rigged against them. And the Labour Party must now live up to its name. We must be the party for working people.
That was Angela Rayner early this afternoon. She said that Labour was on its last chance as she appeared to back her mate Andy Burnham. What's she up to, do you think? This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Now on the day the Prime Minister, according to reports, finds himself being ushered out the door, his former deputy was busy savaging his government at a conference on the South Coast. Have a listen. Well, she was speaking at a Communication Workers Union conference in Bournemouth. Angela Rayner launched an astonishing broadside against Starmer's government, imploring the party to change now and make politics work for ordinary people. You can listen now.
Populists and nationalists are not parties for the working class. It is only Labour that can protect you at work, rebuild our estates, make sure that we have the council homes that we need, end no-fault evictions, bring down waiting lists and feed our kids.
She got herself some new specs, nice shiny hair and a very sombre dress for the occasion. Now, part of her speech was a scathing attack that blocking Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham from contesting the Gorton and Denton by-election was wrong. She's right, isn't she?
We, as a party, have to do better than this. And we can only prove we mean our Labour values by putting the common interest ahead of factionalism. And we can start by accepting that Andy Burnham should never have been blocked. It was a mistake that the leadership of our party should put right.
Well, that speech brought into sharp focus the potential movers and shakers that could capitalise from a vacancy in Downing Street. Now, rumours are continuing to swirl that Health Secretary Wes Streeting, the Mayor of Greater Manchester and Rayner herself are all interested in the job. So just who is in pole position and what would the various fractions mean for the direction of the country should they triumph? Let me ask my panel here. And also in London, Hilary, Simon, Benjamin and Jonathan this evening. Let me start with you, Benjamin Butterworth. Who of these candidates would you see as being the most successful person to lead the Labour Party? Because they don't just have to have a certain type of personality and be likeable. They've got to present a vision. We're all kind of forgetting that. This isn't just about the personality of Starmer. It's about where they want to take the country.
Well, look, dare I say it, I actually have a degree of optimism tonight because I have long felt that Wes Streeting is the most impressive Labour politician since Tony Blair. He's got a fantastic backstory. You know, he was grew up in a council estate in East London with a single mum. He was gay in a time when that was particularly difficult, and he made it to Cambridge and is an exceptionally impressive man. I think he's a brilliant communicator. He's got conviction, and often he goes against the vein. So, you know, his constituency was the second biggest swing when he won it. And if we look at the local elections from last week, well, Redbridge, the area of East London where his constituency is, actually made some gains from other parties. It fared very well. Now, if we compare that to Angela Rayner, Tameside in Greater Manchester lost every council ward to Reform. And so I think there's someone in the mix who is pretty reasonable, pretty middle of the road in terms of the country, where the country sits, and also is a proven winner. So I'm really hoping that Wes Streeting starts his successful leadership bid tomorrow.
Jonathan, let me ask you a question that is unique to The Late Show Live. Which then would get on best with President Trump, do you think? Angela Rayner, Wes Streeting? Go on. Or Andy Burnham?
Good question, Bev. That's the best question you've ever asked me. I think for the you-know-what and the giggles, Angela Rayner. I want to see Angela Rayner in the Oval Office.
I do. I agree. Let me ask you, Simon. Do you see it? So I'll come back to Jonathan. What do you think? Which of them would get? Which of them would get on best with President Trump?
He always talks about people out of central casting. So I'm afraid he's going to go with the looks and pick the one, probably Streeting, who looks more like a politician. I mean, you said the glasses, the hair. I mean, I don't cast aspersions on anybody, but I think physical presence counts a lot, at least in initial meetings and impressions with President Trump.
Oh, I think there's some truth to that, but I also think it does. You know, there's a lot of high heels in that building. I can't lie. There's a certain type of conservative dress, which you and I don't mind, Hillary, do we? But I know that it's not everyone's cup of tea. But who do you think President Trump would get on best? Because I think what he'd like about Rayner would be her straightforward honesty, tackle the elephant in the room, and have quite a laugh as she's doing it. I think
you're right. One thing that I think that Donald Trump definitely has. President Trump brings to the table what makes any politician ever successful. It made Margaret Thatcher successful, Churchill successful, it made Ronald Reagan successful. It's having a true North Star. I think whoever has the most true North Star and will be there for their convictions. I do think Wes Streeting, as we just mentioned, he came from a council house. He's really lived that life, and Angela Rayner too. So either of them, whoever has a true North Star. And I think truthfully what President Trump really cares about, he cares about, because he has an affinity with his mother being Scottish, for the success of the United Kingdom. I think what he wants is success. So whoever's going to actually want the successful platform for what Labour is supposed to be, which is the working man Labour, that's who it would be. So maybe Wes Streeting or Angela Rayner, actually.
Go on, Jonathan. Let me come back to you because I cut you off fairly quickly there.
Well, look, I mean, obviously I think Rayner and Trump would have... Well, I think that Rayner would talk to him directly in a way that Starmer never has done. I can see that there would be sparks that would fly. But actually, I think that, I very rarely have a good word to say about Donald, as you know, Bev. But I do think that something about Trump would respect that. I actually think that Trump respects people who speak their mind. And that is why a lot of conservative commentators are so wrong-footed when Trump met Mamdani for the first time, Zohran Mamdani. They said, oh, they're going to hate each other, Trump's going to walk all over him, they're rubbing their hands with glee, and then he wrong-footed everyone by having this extraordinary bromance with him, because Trump likes a winner, and Trump likes someone who's not afraid to stand up to him, strangely, because obviously Trump is a huge bully. He wants people to crawl to him, but he actually kind of respects people who are prepared to stand up to him. And there was an extraordinary moment, you remember, when someone asked Mamdani, do you think Trump's a fascist? And Trump almost said, you know, you can say it, don't worry. And that was kind of a hilarious moment, where Mamdani knew he wasn't going to sugarcoat his opinions, and Trump liked that. So I think Rayner would actually have an interesting relationship. Burnham would just probably be seen as an identikit politician for Trump. I think Streeting maybe would have a bit of the Mamdani factor, but let's face it, Streeting is no Mamdani. And I have to disagree with my fellow left-wing commentator to my left in sort of, singing, showering praise on Streeting. I do not find him to be impressive politically, and I certainly don't like his politics. I think he'd be a disaster for Labour.
I think Wes Streeting might be terrible. I don't know Wes Streeting. I've never met him. I'm just drawing this impression from what I've seen of him. I think he might be quite intimidated by the Oval Office, Hillary. Do you? I think he could be a bit cowed by it. No, Benjamin? Go on, Ben.
No, I mean, look, I've known Wes since I was a teenager, and he's not a person that's easily intimidated. In fact, I think when you come from a background like that, you only get from A to B with incredible guts. But, I think the problem Angela Rayner might have is a bit like when Cheryl Cole was dropped from X Factor USA, which is, would anybody be able to understand her accent in America?
We go to right with George W. Bush, it's fine.
Oh, listen, I spend all day here trying to make sense of what Americans are saying to me, and I can't understand. We can never understand each other. We get there in the end.
They can understand you, they can understand Rayner, come on. You're from the same part of the world as Angela Rayner. They can understand.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you. Right, Jonathan Benjamin, thank you so much. Stay with us. We are going to take a very quick break. We're still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
But the guilty men are the Prime Minister and the Chancellor. They've dishonoured all of that sacrifice. They've dishonoured their office. This is the first time in the history of our country that a Prime Minister had been found to be in breach of the law. And then he lied repeatedly to the public about it. Britain deserves better. They have to go.
These words come back and bite them, don't they? That was just one of the many times when Keir Starmer was calling for Boris Johnson to resign. I'm going to be joined by a former minister for Boris in just a minute. He's going to know all about these last days of Saigon for a Prime Minister. Don't go anywhere. This is The Late Show Live with Bev, only on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live with me, Bev, this evening. Our inbox is very, very busy. We have had record viewing figures on GB News over the last few days, by the way. And Jackie said, I can't wait to hear Starmer's leaving speech outside the doors of number 10. Soon, maybe there will be crocodile tears. She says the words, our friends and partners in the EU, we will come together to combat the hatred of the far right. And I'm proud to have served this great nation, are all bound to get a mention. Yep, we're going to be doing the phrase bingo, no doubt, in the next 12 hours on GB News, Jackie. So keep your messages coming, gbnews.com/your say. Let's talk now to Tom Pursglove, who was a minister under the Conservative government during Boris Johnson's time. Good evening, Tom. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, what are the parallels, would you say? You know what this kind of time feels like. You can, I imagine, remember the visceral, the anxiety, the adrenaline of what happens next. What's going on behind number 10 right now, Tom?
Well, this is done, and we're now at the stage where this is completely irretrievable. I mean, it was fascinating a little earlier this evening hearing Jonathan Hinder, who's a new Labour MP, just speak in absolutely damning terms about the leader of his party, defiantly saying that he is going and saying that the speech today was totally tone deaf. And when the political capital runs out, when colleagues have had enough, the dam tends to break very quickly. And so my assumption is that we've got these cabinet ministers seemingly going in, speaking to the Prime Minister, and they will be desperately trying to find an off-ramp, but you'll probably be dealing with a leader of the party who doesn't want to hear it, who has obviously had these ambitions to be Prime Minister, has managed to get themselves to the greatest office, the highest office in the land, certainly doesn't want to give that up. But it just seems to me that the situation now is completely beyond the state where it could be repaired. And that manifests itself in so many ways. There's no reset that's possible because you can't reshuffle. You can't deliver a policy agenda because you'll just be forced into U-turn after U-turn after U-turn. And the system knows that you finished as well. The entire system of government operates on the basis of trust and consent, and that just frankly isn't there now. And so the national interest has to be that Keir Starmer steps aside as quickly as possible to allow some sense of normality to come to our politics again.
And what kind of civil servants are in the background now, Tom? Like, presumably still awake behind that door we're looking at there. Who is it who has to have the backbone, or another word beginning with B, to say, listen, sir, it's time to go. We've got to write your speech. We've got to write the next steps of this. Like, does that fall to one person?
Lost a good number of those over the course. Has been riven by. I mean, the whole Mandelston episode, of course, saw McSweeney go, who was the Prime Minister's eyes and ears. He was the person that he undoubtedly relied on more than anybody else. Now, he would have undoubtedly been very close to him in this moment, but he's not there any longer. So you would expect that some of those big political figures, the likes of David Lammy, who is clearly very close to, has become his deputy prime minister, would be talking to him. You would expect that the chief whip would also be speaking to him. And the message that the chief whip must be hearing is resounding from Labour colleagues. The fact that you've got 70-odd Labour MPs who've gone over the top today to say that they've got no confidence, that's just a relatively small sample in a parliamentary party of over 400. But there'll be many who instinctively want to be loyal, but who just don't feel able to go over the top. I mean, it is always interesting that often the people at the very top of government think that it should be those lower down the ranks that should put their careers on the line, and that they should be the ones to perhaps tender their resignations. And I note that that's happened a little bit today. But those MPs will be in complete despair. And so it's the job of the chief whip, the party chairman, those really close allies of the Prime Minister, to be speaking truth to power and to tell him that the game is up. It just undoubtedly is. There is no way back from this. It just stretches all credibility to think in any way, shape or form that he could carry on. I mean, look at the speech, completely lacking in conviction, talking about nationalising the steel industry, brackets, subject to a public merits test, trying to retrieve the situation in places like Wigan by saying, let's cozy up to the European Union. I've never heard anything as daft in my life.
Yeah. It was laughable. It was genuinely laughable. Like, yet again, if he tried to write a speech, and again, I think he had AI written all over it. I think Angela Rayner's speech had AI. I think her tweets are clearly, transparently written by ChatGPT today. The speech could not have hit more wrong notes based on what people voted for on Thursday, Tom. Who was he writing that for? Who wrote it? Like, what's the process that's gone on behind that this morning? Because whatever it is, whoever decided that was the right speech, they need to go straight away.
I think it was probably targeted at his direct audience, which was that cohort of 400-odd Labour MPs, and probably to the general membership of the Labour Party, many of whom are hurting after what happened last week. And look, I've been in politics a long time, and I've seen good Conservative councillors lose their seats over the years, and that hurts. But it seemed to me that there was a complete lack of sorry in the speech to the people that had been affected by his decisions, his leadership, his choices. But it would definitely have been targeted at that electorate, that immediate electorate who will decide his future, which is Labour MPs. And there was a lot in there that perhaps will make them feel good about themselves, but I don't think does anything to repair the relationships with voters. I mean, as I say, trying in the aftermath of those elections, with reform on the march, pinching seat after seat after seat off them in their heartlands that overwhelmingly voted to leave, how could you possibly think that the policy prescription to respond to that is cozying up to the European Union? But then even when talking about cozying up to the European Union, didn't have the conviction to sort of be honest about the fact that that would involve, for example, the customs union and the single market and free movement. It's just completely insincere and disingenuous. And enough's enough.
It was extraordinary, but that's what blew my mind. I was like, who is he writing this for? Because it's not the country. It made a mockery of democracy. I want to put the UK back in the centre of the. I want to put the UK in the centre of Europe. I'm exasperated. I'm still exasperated. It's now nearly 10, what time is it now? Nearly 8 o'clock here, and I'm still exasperated this morning. Tom, it's even later where you are. Thank you so much, Tom Persglove. What a pleasure. Thank you so much. Brilliant insight there. Come on again soon. Right, quick break, and then we're going to look at the newspapers. The Prime Minister has lost the Mirror. It has rebels turn on Starmer. When the Mirror is not backing him, you know that the clock is ticking. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in a chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live with me, Bev. We are going to have a quick look at some of the front pages now. And Hilary Fordwich and I were just discussing the fact that this morning, as it is there in the UK, The left-wing press is particularly interesting. We're not normally glued to the front page of The Guardian.
I really like it. I want to see what they're saying, because when they fall and they go, you know, we're done. I know I keep mentioning Wales, but it's because I'm absolutely astounded to see Wales fall. And remember, they're called the Labour Party because they're supposed to be for the labouring working man and woman. And when the labouring man and woman doesn't vote for them because they do view them as globalists, which they are, and they're not acting in their interest, that's when you know the end is nigh.
Yeah, exactly. It's not almost not got that much coverage what's happened in Wales.
It's
actually, because the reform trouncing across the country was so spectacular that's stolen all the headlines.
It's 100 years. It's since the First World War.
Yeah. Right, let's have a look. The Mirror is leading on Rebels turn on Starmer. This is what the Mirror is saying, and a picture of Keir Starmer looking like he's sort of taking an intake of breath, and he's sort of on the ropes there, isn't he? PM comes out fighting, but 4 ministerial aides quit within hours. They say growing number of backbench MPs join the clamour for a new leader. Labour in crisis. When the Mirror says Labour in crisis, that is telling the Prime Minister do something. The Independent, they're leading with Streeting poised for leadership bid, but PM vows to fight on. And The Guardian, perhaps the most interesting, Starmer's survival on the line as cabinet ministers urge him to quit, and a photograph of him looking sad, frankly, with his downturned mouth and actually a little bit pathetic. The iPaper is leading with Starmer mutiny grows with Labour Party in open revolt against PM. Kind of factual headline there. Let's bring in all our panel to reflect on the way the left-wing press are dealing with this. Benjamin, when you get the newspapers on the left leading with these headlines, all hope is gone. All hope is gone, that's it. There might only be 70-odd MPs out of 300-400, but that's it, it's over, innit?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any way around reporting the fact that, you know, it is over for Keir Starmer. On Sunday, he gave a 12-minute interview to the Observer newspaper, sort of the sister paper of The Guardian, I suppose it just changed. But he gave an interview to them in which he said he would do 10 years as Prime Minister. Well, I know that Labour MPs after that started calling this Keir Starmer's Willy Wonka era because he's in pure imagination for thinking that he could last any more years. So, you know, it's all over for him.
A fella can dream, come on.
Yeah, it's all over for him, there's no doubt. I mean, in The Guardian, they quote a cabinet minister who is supposedly on Starmer's side of the party, who says that basically he has until cabinet in the morning, which will be at about 10 a.m, to make his mind up, because by then you'll have all the MPs, cabinet ministers will be going to give him the news, and, you know, that's what The Guardian leads on, that basically he's got until the middle of the morning and to make his mind up on whether he stays and fights or whether he leaves with dignity.
I mean, there's no there's no
Which
way
is it going to be?
Well, I think that everyone knows, including Starmer, surely, that he cannot go on beyond, say, September, because there's so many people
we
that want
can't
him
go
to
on beyond this, Jonathan. I'm so sorry, we've run out of time, but we've still got another 2 hours, so don't go anywhere. Just a quick look at your weather. We'll be back.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning. Yes, it's weather update time from the Met Office here on GB News. A chilly start out there for many of us today. There's quite a few showers around across Scotland and they'll be spreading south. So it's a mixture of sun and showers really through the day. A bright start in the south, but it is quite cold. Temperatures only slowly rising. A chill in the breeze as well, which is coming in from the northwest, pushing this band of showery rain across northern England into Wales and across the Midlands. A mixture of sunshine and showers will follow, but the showers tending to fade from central Scotland and Northern Ireland this afternoon. So some good spells of sunshine here, but temperatures struggling, only really in the low to maybe mid-teens across the south, but clouding over here through the course of the afternoon. Still a few showers to come across eastern England into this evening time. Not too many in the southwest, so generally here we'll see some fine weather to end the day, as we will across Wales. But again, quite quickly those temperatures dropping away. That chilly air coming in from the northwest, and also by this evening more showers packing in across western Scotland with, yes, a little little bit of snow over the tops of the mountains, but some sunny spells across eastern Scotland. As we go through the evening, we'll see more of these showers tending to drift south, so returning to northern England as we go through the evening. More widespread across Northern Ireland also, and eventually some cropping up across North Wales. Much of the south, though, becoming dry, lengthy clear spells here. Not quite as cold as last night because there's more cloud around and more breeze, but there could still easily be some pockets of frost here and there. Most towns and cities dropping to about 5 to 7 Celsius. But a chilly feel on Wednesday, and more showers to come, I suspect, tomorrow as well. Maybe again dry, sunny start across the southeast, but generally expect showers tomorrow. And tomorrow's showers likely to be pretty heavy. Hail and thunder mixed in for good measure also. And again, with the winds coming in from the north or northwest, that is going to bring a chilly feel, despite some sunny spells between the showers. Temperatures below average, 10 to 14 Celsius. Goodbye.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
From cold mornings
To warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Thank you for joining us on The Late Show Live with me, Bev. We are on resignation watch. The Prime Minister is clinging onto his job by his bitten fingernails. 4 cabinet ministers, including now Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy, have reportedly called on the Prime Minister to consider his position. Consider his position. That is such a political phrase to say, mate, Know when it's time to go, read the room, sling your rug. So Keir Starmer's attempt to reset his premiere with a speech which sounded suspiciously like AI to me, I can't lie, it has backfired after those humiliating local council results and the devolved elections. Meanwhile, more than 75 MPs and 6 ministerial aides have joined the mutiny and called for the Prime Minister to set a timetable for his departure. If you had to set your watch, when does that alarm go off? The Prime Minister will hold a cabinet meeting in the morning when, according to the Times newspaper, ministers are expected to tell him he cannot cling on. Delighted to say I'm joined this evening by political commentator Hilary Fordwich and Senior Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation think tank Simon Hankinson, and in London, political commentators Benjamin Butterworth and Jonathan Liss. Thank you all so much for joining us. Just a quick word from all of you, if you like, on that timetable of I've just said there in the opening, Hilary. When does Keir Starmer come out and say, I'm going?
Well, King's speech is Wednesday. I think the fact that they're still in Downing Street, and I think they've ordered DoorDash, there's a lot of pressure. The party doesn't want him. You know why? Because politicians view their own futures as most important, and they view that this is political extinction. His worst line, he said, was, I'm going to be here for another decade, and I think that sent shockwaves through them. I wouldn't be surprised if it's before Wednesday.
Simon, what do you think? Will he wait until the King's speech is out of the way?
You know, I remember when Margaret Thatcher was on the way out, and she lasted a lot longer in power. Yeah. It gets into their heads. They get very unrealistic about their prospects. So I don't see him going during this show's airtime. Let's put it that way. I think it might take a little longer.
But I do wonder what's going on behind those curtains, Benjamin. If he's got to be up and about and at the lectern in the morning and potentially delivering a speech, what time would you say we might see him out on the steps of Downing Street?
I think he will have made the decision that he has no choice but to go by the start of Britain's newsroom, because that will be just before the cabinet
meets. Which is 9:30 in the morning.
Exactly. And I do think that, you know, there have been cabinet ministers in Downing Street tonight counselling him on what to do, and some saying he has to go. And so I wouldn't be surprised if right now, 1 a.m. London time, he is writing the speech that he will deliver by tomorrow afternoon to announce his resignation.
Bev, I would say...
Do you agree, Jonathan?
Yeah, well, what I would like to happen, because I think that Burnham is the candidate who is best placed to unite the Labour Party and to put Labour in the best position it could possibly be in, which admittedly isn't a great position, but it's better than I think that Streeting or Rayner would put Labour in. But obviously Burnham isn't in Parliament, and that's why a lot of people on the left of the Labour Party want this contest to be delayed until Burnham gets back into Parliament. And I think that if there was some kind of deal with the NEC, which is Labour's national committee, to facilitate Burnham's re-entry into Parliament, because remember, they blocked him last time, then I think a lot of people on the left would be happy. That is why, perversely, a lot of people on the left have not come out for Starmer to resign, because they don't want Streeting or indeed Rayner to be Prime Minister. So that's the kind of thing, that is the only reason why I personally would like Starmer to wait. Also to give him a bit of personal dignity, to spare his humiliation a bit so he's not forced out. He has the safe face, he gets the lads to climb down and say, I'm going to be leaving at a time of my own choosing. We know it's not really his own choosing, but it's a lot better than saying, I'm leaving today. So that's what I think is more likely, because I don't think there's an appetite in the Labour Party to completely humiliate him, like there was with Liz Truss, for example. I think they still have a degree of respect for him. He won them a landslide victory. They don't want to see him completely humiliated and defeated, but they do want to see him out. So.
Yeah, I think my instinct is probably a bit like yours, Jonathan. I don't think he's going to go instantly. I think what we might hear tomorrow morning is a speech along the lines of, I am listening to you, I hear it, I get it, I'm dealing with it, I will let you know in good time what I intend to do, bear with me.
Same old.
That's what I think he might do tomorrow morning, is to say, I'm preparing an off-ramp, but I think he might leave us hanging.
And do you remember also, just sorry to come back on one thing, do you remember when Boris Johnson gave his resignation speech? It wasn't, I'm out this week, it was, I will be out in 2 months' time, which a lot of us at the time thought was ridiculous, because he had a Deputy Prime Minister, Dominic Raab, who could have taken over, so he had 2 months still sitting in that office while there was a very lengthy campaign to replace him. And I think that might be also a means for Starmer to kind of retain a bit of dignity. He says it's going to be a very, very long process. I'll leave after the summer, for example.
I think so. I think so. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, a lot of us were talking about the fact that we'd get these local elections out of the way and then the decision would be made. Well, you know, it was pretty categorical, wasn't it, that his position is not tenable. But where the priorities lie for all the different people, whether it's the members of the party, whether it's the backbenchers, whether it's the cabinet, I would love to be a fly on the wall inside number 10 tonight. Can you imagine the conversations? And nobody's mentioned what his wife might think about this. It's crossed my mind a few times when I was talking earlier to our earlier guest, and I said about the fact that who is the person who breaks the news to him. I did wonder whether his missus is the one who takes him to one side tonight in their dressing gowns and maybe sits on the end of the bed with a cup of tea and goes, mate, it's up. You've got to go. We can't do this anymore. You've got to, you know. She might. I call my partner mate sometimes, but you know, she might say, "Kia dear, Kia dear,
good. I like that.
It's time to go." But you know, I mean, on a very personal, this is a very domestic perspective here. But they've got kids in school. You know, they live in that house. Behind all of the political shenanigans that's going on, there's literally a family living in that house who are about to have their life upended. It's very easy to forget that. I mean, I feel sorry for the kids, I can't lie, but I don't particularly feel sorry for the Prime Minister. Well, not remotely, actually. But anyway, let's just move on. Let's have a quick listen to another part of Sir Keir Starmer's speech from earlier today. And he talked about Tommy Robinson's Unite the Kingdom March, which is happening in London this weekend. Here he is.
But it's here. That politics is with us now. And you'll see it again on Saturday at a march designed to confront and intimidate this diversity and this diverse country. That is why this Labour government will block far-right agitators from travelling to Britain for that event.
It is not a march designed to intimidate and divide. It is a march of people who are looking for community, a sense of who they are. Louise Mensch joins me now, former Conservative MP Louise Mensch. It's a group of people, Louise, thank you so much for joining us. This march on Saturday that he calls, you know, it's going to be full of far-right agitators. It's up to him to decide who can and can't go, and particularly people from America, people based here in Washington, D.C. are not being allowed to fly, which blows my mind that he thinks he's got a right to do that. He doesn't understand the public, Louise, does he? Or maybe he does and he just doesn't want to admit that he gets it, but he's not on their side.
Well, look, Bev, normally I take your view on most things. I don't on this one, I'm afraid. I think the Unite the Kingdom thing is just agitation, and having had a look at some of the people that he's banned, or Shabana Mahmood has banned, more technically, I'm glad that she did. I mean, I remember there was this blonde Dutch girl who was just pretty much a Russian propagandist. We don't need that. The more interesting thing to me is the idea that the one man who could save Keir Starmer is his hated rival, Andy Burnham, because that is the only reason that he hasn't had to resign tonight. The BBC is reporting that most of the cabinet, a majority of the cabinet, at least tonight, are not saying that he should go and are saying that he should stay, and that they are a bit wary of doing to Labour what happened to the Tories with the revolving door. However, to put the cat amongst the pigeons, if I were Andy Burnham, I would be calling and saying, you know what, I don't need a seat in Parliament to be Prime Minister. I do not under our Constitution. Look at Mark Carney. He became the Prime Minister of Canada without having a seat as an MP in that country, and then he stood at the next general election, he got his MP seat and he carried on being Prime Minister. But desperate times call for desperate measures, and Wes Streeting is going to want Starmer out before Andy Burnham can come back, because he believes, Streeting does, that is the only way that he himself will make it into number 10. So there is still an outside possibility that Starmer, although he can't survive in perhaps even the medium term, he might be able to survive a little bit in the short term. We're going to find out tomorrow morning. I think he'll have to go, but it's not certain.
Yeah, I'm going to come back on that Unite the Kingdom issue, Louise, before we go. But you raise a very interesting point about Andy Burnham, because they didn't let him stand in Gorton. The suspicion being because he was such a threat to the Prime Minister. Angela Rayner has now come out today and said that was a mistake because he could be there in the running for this. But you think there might be a way that he could challenge Starmer, or not challenge Starmer because he'll be gone by then, but he could stand as a leadership candidate of Labour without having a seat as an MP. I've asked various experts tonight and nobody can seem to demonstrate that route.
Right, well, let me just clear it up for you a little bit. Labour Party rules, I'll defer to any Labour member of your guests, but my understanding is that Labour Party rules, to be the leader of the Labour Party, you have to have a seat in Parliament. That is true. However, constitutionally, you do not have to have a seat in Parliament in order to be Prime Minister, and we have just seen, now normally that would just be a technicality. Of course you have to have a seat in Parliament to be Prime Minister, but if I was Andy Burnham and I really wanted to annoy people, set the cat amongst pigeons, I would say, look, I command a majority of MPs in the House of Commons. I should be Prime Minister, and then one of his allies will just resign in a safe Labour seat, cause by-election, and he can go into Parliament and become leader of the Labour Party that way. I don't think he would take lying down the allies of Wes Streeting and the centre-right of the Labour Party, pushing it forward just so that they can get Starmer out and get Streeting in, or whoever it is, Rayner in, before Burnham has that chance. So I think we might see some fireworks in the Labour Party before this is all done.
And how much of that do you think we're going to see in public, Louise mentioned? Or is it all just going to be going on behind the scenes and we're going to get a very carefully curated narrative version of events from probably starting at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning?
Yeah, look, I do think that Starmer will probably resign tomorrow. If I was a betting woman, a gun to my head, will he or won't he probably will announce a timetable to resign tomorrow, but not definitely. And as for how secret it will be, the answer to that is not very secret, because Labour MPs, including senior ones, whips, apparently conduct their business through a WhatsApp group, which is totally porous and being leaked to the press every day. I mean, I'm sure GB News has got these WhatsApp exchanges that are buzzing around from various ministers and MPs, and my favourite one reported in the Times was that some Labour MP said, if you think Keir Starmer, if you think this is sustainable, you need an MRI. And one of the whips said, that's really rude. So I think we're going to get to watch all of the little backbiting and the gossip and so forth. If there's one thing politicians do, speaking as an ex-politician myself, they love to talk. And I don't think you're going to find any Trappist monks in the Labour Party facing the media interest tomorrow. I think we're going to hear plenty of gossip.
Now, it's easy to forget in the maelstrom of all this that we're talking about this because Reform did so well in the local elections, and the Greens to some extent, but less significantly. Would Nigel Farage want Keir Starmer gone? And if so, who does he want in his place?
Now, that is a very interesting question indeed. What a clever question. The answer is no, of course not. Nigel Farage is cracking open the champagne, and it will only be slightly spoiled by the fact that he did so well in those elections that now Keir Starmer, the point is not will he go, but when will he go? That's the only question that we're all discussing tonight. There's not literally one person in Britain that thinks Keir Starmer's going to be Prime Minister at the next election. But he was the gift that kept on giving to Nigel Farage. However, if I was Nigel, I would be rooting really hard for an Andy Burnham comeback. You might even watch this thing and suggest to him he can run anyway, even if he doesn't get a seat. Because Andy Burnham is really the hard left. And if you thought Keir Starmer was bad, just remember, most of his MPs want him gone because they are under the mistaken impression that Britain has rejected the Labour Party because it isn't left-wing enough. Andy Burnham makes Keir Starmer look like Nigel Farage. So actually, if I was Reform, I would be pretty pleased that Starmer's going. If he gets replaced by Burnham, I would not like to see him replaced by somebody like Streeting, or I think the only person that could possibly win, John Healey, the Defence Secretary. I also think Shabana Mahmood, who gets very tough, she might have maybe somewhat of a chance because she could claw back some of those Muslim and left-leaning majority voters. She is a Muslim woman, and a lot of people will vote for that. And she could perhaps stem the bleeding towards the Greens on the left. But if I was Nigel Farage, my fingers would be crossed. I would be praying to the tooth fairy for Andy Burnham to become the next Prime Minister, because he could have even more fun with Andy than he's had with Keir.
But the only thing I would say is that if Andy Burnham keeps his far left, as you describe it, ideology largely under wraps, he can come across as one of the people. He's very popular as Manchester Mayor. People like him. I've met Andy Burnham on many occasions. I like him enormously as a person. He seems very straightforward. He seems very authentic, actually, in opposition to Keir Starmer, that people are constantly looking at to work out where his actual sort of rudder lies, because he can be so difficult to read. Do you not think that is a threat with Burnham, that he's one of the lads?
Exactly. What you're talking about there is charisma. I've met him, of course. He's very personable. He's very likeable. He isn't going to be as bad as Keir Starmer as coming across as a robot automaton from, like, the planet Zod. He's not going to be that bad. He's not going to sound like a ChatGTP answer, as you said, when he gets to the podium. However, there is only so much you can do with an affable smile and a lot of charisma, as Boris Johnson found out. Andy Burnham's policies are significantly to the left even of Keir Starmer. He isn't going to bring down the price of petrol. He isn't going to stop the welfare bill from exploding. He won't do anything to stop the boats and stop the illegal immigrants. And after, I expect, a brief honeymoon period like every new Prime Minister gets, his policies would put Britain even worse than it is now, if you can imagine that. And that is what Nigel will be running against in a few years' time.
Yeah, absolutely. And just one last question. I said I would come back to the Unite the Kingdom rally, Louise. You're not a fan of that, or you don't admire, or you don't see that the joining of those people that will happen at the weekend is a force for good?
No, I don't. I don't believe that Tommy Robinson is a force for good at all. And I do believe in pushing out people from this country who are, if you like, professional agitators. That's our right. I mean, we can't on one hand say stop the boats and secure the borders and then say we can't ban people from coming into our country. Of course we can. However, there is a strong case to be made that perhaps the best way forward isn't banning these obnoxious pro-Russian propagandists, but allowing them to talk and defeating them through free speech. It's not something I can get too excited about. These aren't very savoury characters. I'm not sorry that they've been banned. But yes, there is an argument for saying just let everybody make their arguments and let the chips fall where they may. So I will cede that point to you.
And I think Eva Vladingerbrook would say that she's very much not a Russian advocate. Here we go. Who's that leaving Downing Street, Louise Mensch? Any idea? Apart from the cat.
I didn't see that because I was looking straight at their camera. Was that Larry the cat? Now, that's the real leader of Great Britain, if you want. By the way, Eva might say that, but she'd be wrong.
He's had it.
She'd be wrong.
Yeah, OK, Louise, thank you so much for joining me. Former Conservative MP Louise Mensch dropping into the Late Show Live. Now, what we saw from that door opening, Hilary, is the lights are still on. Nobody's in bed. I don't know whether we can replay that. I'm dying to know who that woman was. She walked out in a camel coat with long blonde flowing hair. Who do you think that was, Simon?
I noticed the coat and the hair. I couldn't see, it was too quick, and I just was looking at the
I think she just looked like somebody that works there. I mean, it didn't look like anything significant, but do they go out the front door?
How very offensive to that woman.
No, but I mean, sorry, it wasn't somebody that we know, like an Angela Rayner.
She's
What I'm saying, I didn't mean to, I'm not denigrating her. But do they always go out, do people that literally just work at 10 Downing Street go out of the front door? Is that the way everybody leaves? There's no back door, there's no place for staff to leave?
I'm pretty sure there's a back door.
Yeah, so why would she come out the front door then?
Will give us something to talk about.
Yeah, give us some action.
Maybe they're watching Late Show Live.
Yeah.
I do apologise to the woman in the camel coat that Hilary just said. You're not important.
Sorry, I know what you meant. She's nobody I recognise or we recognise. It wasn't Angela Rayner.
No, it wasn't Angela Rayner. If Angela Rayner was walking out there at 1:20 in the morning, we'd have a few questions to ask. Go on, Simon.
I was going to say, right to have your say, and she can tell us who she is.
Very good point. GBNews.com/your say, as Simon assists me as my co-presenter here. Thank you so much for that. If you have any idea who that woman was who walked out, do let us know. Yeah, we're going to keep an eye on that door, because clearly there is a lot of activity going on behind the scenes in Downing Street this evening. Let's go to Benjamin and Jonathan as well. Benjamin, I bet you know who that blonde woman was who walked out of Downing Street. You know everyone.
It's pretty dark, so it's very hard to tell. But the question I can answer is that there is a back door. You can go in through the side from St James's Park, which is behind Downing Street. And so, you know, the reason I'm sure of that on a night like this is because we know that cabinet ministers like Shabana Mahmood, John Healey, the Defence Minister, David Lammy, the Deputy Prime Minister, they've all been in Downing Street tonight, and they're certainly not going through the front door in front of the cameras and all questions from journalists like you.
Oh, well, more fool them, cowards. Because one of the conversations, actually, that's come up from the last few days, and actually, I think it's important, I wrote a piece about this for the GB News website, is Labour have routinely, regularly avoided talking to GB News. When Christopher Hope or Catherine are there at the pressers, they won't take a question from GB News. I've been in the room, they won't take a question from me. They routinely miss us on the morning round, they won't get involved. They've chosen to just ignore GB News. And don't you think that is coming home to roost, Jonathan, Liz, now? Because what these local elections proved is that to some degree, it's our viewers who are turning the dial. If you've got a message to say, come on air and have the backbone to say it.
But I obviously think that people should talk to, mainstream news outlets, and I've seen many Labour ministers being interviewed on GB News before. Wasn't there one thing where only GB News was invited to something, an immigration thing, or was that, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was under Labour, but you'll correct me if I'm wrong.
I think they might have given us a couple of little crumbs on occasion, perhaps when they think patronisingly it might be the kind of thing that our viewers are interested in.
But, look, I think
exactly.
there's something.
But guess what? GB viewers we're a broad church. Go on.
No, I was saying there's no boycott by Labour of GB News at all.
Oh, there totally is. Oh, there totally is.
But I've seen ministers. I've literally seen cabinet ministers being interviewed in this very room. Labour ministers, Labour MPs go on all the time.
Bridget Phillipson, Education Secretary, is one of the very few who will make an effort to come into the studio to talk to GB News, but quite regularly on the morning rounds. Yvette Cooper, no. Angela Rayner, almost never. Rachel Reeves, literally almost never. Starmer, almost never. He might occasionally talk to Chopper if it's pre-arranged and everyone's had to bend over backwards and etc. and make that happen. But Benjamin, don't you think that Labour, going forward, whoever is running that party, need to say, we have to talk to GB News viewers? Because I don't think our viewers and listeners are necessarily members of Reform or members actually of political parties. I think there's a lot of people, probably myself included in this, who have voted promiscuously over the years, and we get to 2026 and we want to find... I voted for everybody over the years.
Promiscuous isn't the word.
Promiscuous is the word. I voted promiscuously. I voted for Nick Clegg. I think I voted for Tony Blair. I don't think I ever voted for Boris Johnson. I can't remember, but I never felt party political.
Aligned.
And I think a lot of our viewers are the same. We're not aligned. Say again.
I said you've been on quite the journey if you voted for Nick Clegg.
Yeah, I have.
Nick Clegg to Donald Trump.
You know better than anyone what journey.
The pipeline is real.
Exactly. But that is the point, don't you think, Benjamin? That our viewers are there to be convinced they've got a strong argument. They'll tell us what it is.
Well, there is, one person that always does GB News on the morning press rounds, and that's Wes Streeting. And in fact, I remember one of the recent times when he was interviewed, he said the thing about GB News is that its bark is often worse than its bite, and that he encouraged his colleagues to come and be questioned. And actually, if you remember at the last general election, there was a proper poll of GB News viewers, which found that Labour at that stage was the most popular party to vote for. And I do actually think it's a real mistake to avoid a channel like this, not because they necessarily have the politics which some presenters or some viewers might have, but because it is clearly a big part of where the country is going, the questions they're asking, and I think that they will fail as a government if they don't answer those questions and have answers to them, because if they don't do it on GB News, they're going to eventually do it at the electorate, and arguably we saw that with Reform in the local elections.
But Bev, isn't this actually a question of where Labour needs to go now? I think that you and I will have quite different diagnoses for what Labour needs to do, because we have different kind of conclusions about what Labour's done wrong so far. I think that you would say that Labour has not done enough to win back Reform voters, and that it needs to sort of tack to the right, become a lot more sort of immigration focused, etc. Whereas I think that you would understand that I would have a different prescription, different, and sort of understanding of what's happened, which is that Labour has abandoned its centre-left base. It's taken it for granted. They now have somewhere else to go, which is the Green Party and indeed the Lib Dems, but mostly the Green Party, whereas constantly tacking to the right and aping Reform has not won them any favours, and certainly hasn't won them any voters, because those voters were going to stick with the full-fat version rather than the ersatz skimmed milk version that Labour was offering. So you have all this rhetoric from Shabana Mahmood getting tough on migrants, but they turn to Farage and say what you like about Farage. I really believe that he believes what he says about migrants. I hate it, but I think he believes it. He's a grifter in other ways, but he really believes believes that. Whereas I think that Labour probably doesn't believe it in their bones, and that makes people doubt their authenticity. So what Labour needs to do is offer what it should have done, and what it needs to do is offer a solid, progressive, centre-left platform that speaks to the things that people actually want, such as, you know, a return to public ownership of public services. You know, I've spoken to lots of GB News presenters, and they say, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. The water companies are robbing us blind. There's no choice in our water providers. Why isn't this in public hands, for example? Things like this sort of popular policies that Labour has just abandoned.
Yeah. But they've abandoned them, Hillary, because they are absolute globalists. Yes. That's where we disagree, Jonathan, in terms of where is his leaning towards. Starmer looks at Europe. I mean, he was even asked, where would you rather be, Westminster or Davos? And he said Davos. If you want any more illustration of how keenly wedded he is to Agenda 2030. Yeah, Trump went to Davos and absolutely opened a can of whoop-ass on everyone in the room. It was one of the most satisfying speeches I've ever seen.
There's nothing wrong with talking to other leaders,
But they also go to Davos, and what is the carbon footprint of when they go to Davos? Davos is absolutely hypocritical because they could all do it via Zoom. No, they don't care about the environment. I'll believe in them when they actually act like what they standing for they really believe in. That's the issue, is that they're such hypocrites. And again, going back to Labour, working for the Labour, the tradesmen, the people that get up. I think one of the smartest things that Reform has done is called them the alarm clock people that get up in the morning and work. And people, I think, across the entire British Isles are sick and tired and weary, those that are at maybe the lower income of the spectrum, the Labour voter, and they see their neighbours or people down the street who are given free housing. People who have come illegally to the British Isles, given free housing, free food. It's unjust and unfair. That's what's at the root of all of this.
Well,
Simon, if Labour wants to retain power
going forward,
hang on, Jonathan. But if Labour want to remain in power, do they tack right or do they tack left, depending on who, regardless of who is in power?
Well, it depends on the issue. I mean, Hillary's right. It was what, 1.5 million people who are not permanently British, or whatever status they have, are on benefits. I mean, you know, we brought students in, or you brought students in with their entire dependent families. People see that that's unfair. If a council house goes to a guy who's got, you know, 5 children and maybe 3 wives, but only claims 1, people see that as fundamentally unfair.
And they're hopping the line of local people that are waiting.
They've changed the regulation around being able to bring family members now as students, and that has made a dent in the immigration figures overall.
And the boats are what, up to 200,000 already?
We're heading for net zero migration.
200,000.
We're heading for net zero immigration. We're heading for net zero immigration, and that we're not going to like it, by the way, because people are leaving this country in their droves.
You might not like it, I think.
Well, the thing is, we're heading for net zero immigration, though, aren't we? Because so many successful Brits are kind of leaving.
Well, people say they want net zero immigration, and they're not going to like it when we get there, Bev.
Well, it depends who's left. I don't like it if all the hard-working millionaires running big companies that are employing people in the UK are all leaving.
Every 45 minutes,
I find that slightly concerning. And I don't want to. Do you know what I don't want leaving? The young, potentially hard-working, aspirational British boys and girls who've been through our school system, and now we're losing them to Dubai and Italy and Australia and America. That's a loss, guys.
But Bev, can I say, one of the reasons they are is because the relationship between the state and the individual, the social contract, has been totally broken. Because young people can go to work damned hard, be well behaved, you know, not go to prison, get a university degree, and then they've got no chance of buying a home. Then their taxes are through the roof and their student loan costs through the roof, while we're handing a fortune to millionaires that retired at 60. That is a completely ridiculous way to run the country. And also, by the way, I might say that this idea of hating globalism and some kind of conspiracy, utter tosh. The fact is that in the last 50, 60 years, it's been relationships between different countries, international law, global trade that has lifted more people out of poverty faster than any point in human history. And we undermine that kind of global agreement at our peril.
And since 2020, the transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich has gone off the scale. And that is not because of the small business owners.
You think Donald Trump is the answer to that?
And Nigel Farage, for that matter. Bev, you support reform.
No, I'm talking about the UK.
Right.
I'm talking about the UK. I'm talking about the fact that from 2020, within the couple of years from that period of time, because you can trace it back to that, when we were all told to stay in our homes, but Amazon could still deliver, and the corner grocer shop had to close down, when all those massive companies, when Uber Eats was just filling the till with cash, whilst anybody running in the local chippy had to close down. That's outrageous, and that was under the Conservatives. And guess what? That has maintained, that has kept on steroids under Labour.
I don't think that the lockdown is responsible for the transfer of wealth.
They've done nothing to help small and medium-sized businesses. They've done nothing with national insurance, with wages, with income tax, with business rates. Those are the people that I worry about. The irony is that those are the people that you Labour boys would have traditionally been worried about. That's what I can't understand.
That's why they're called Labour.
You've got a left wing, but I'm looking at two left-wing people here.
I think he's a bit more left-wing.
In hock to a globalist vision, but you're in hock to this globalist vision.
Bev. We've spoken about this word before. It's not my. I'm not policing your language. It's not my favourite word in the world because it is often seen as kind of as a dog whistle. I know you're not using it like that, but I do, so have to say that to Jewish ears, it always sounds alarm bells. But fine, you can critique the idea.
Ridiculous.
I'm just saying that it's. We talk a lot about anti-Semitism at the moment. I'm saying it is used by some people as an anti-Semitic dog whistle. I'm not saying you're using it as that.
Stay on the point.
Okay.
Stay on the point. It's nothing to do with anti-Semitism, and that, unfortunately, is why you, as a Labour voter, as a Labour man, how you can sit here and hear me say that small and medium-sized businesses need support, and your response to that is to say, "Oh, you sound a little bit anti-Semitic." Where are your Labour instincts? Why aren't you sticking up for those people who are trying to build a business?
First of all, I am sticking up for those people. Second of all, it's entirely legitimate for me to point out, as I have done on air with you before, that word.
You're not sticking up for them. You're not sticking up for them.
I am, in the sense that, of course, I want to...
Go on, tell me how Labour have helped them. How have Labour helped small and medium-sized businesses, and how have they clamped down on the likes of Amazon and Google and all of the massive corporations which are just swallowing up all the businesses? How have they done that? Give me an example.
OK, Bev, I think you might be mistaking me for a Labour minister here, because I'm certainly not here to speak for the Labour Party. And as you know, I am very much in favour of the redistribution of wealth and power, and that's why I'm on the left of politics. I'm not here as a spokesman for the Labour Party. I fully agree with you that we need to increase people's wages, and I've said to you many times that one of the reasons, for example, we could do that is by, for example, lifting the personal income threshold to say £19,000 or £20,000 to take the lowest paid people out of income tax altogether. I think that would be really positive. Obviously, we need to find ways to do that. One way I would do that personally is by increasing taxes on the wealthiest, and there are all kinds of taxes that we could go through. Some of them Zach Polanski's talking about, lots of other ideas that very sensible economists have put forward that we can rebalance the tax burden, which at the moment is penalising the hardest, some of the lowest paid people in this country. I also agree with you. If you are supporting higher taxes on multinational enterprises, absolutely 100% agree with you. We need to sort of tax the likes of Amazon, which pay very little corporation tax in this country, and take the governments for a ride, and they act like their own sort of fiefdoms and kingdoms. These are the kinds of left-wing politics I'm absolutely behind. And of course, the cost of living crisis, we have a cost of living crisis, and I agree with you as well that Labour has not done enough to help the lowest paid, and they should have done, they should have sort of said before the election that they were going to increase income tax, for example. They very foolishly ruled that out.
But Jonathan, it's almost not, I think, it's almost not the lowest paid. That's not what I'm talking about. They've increased minimum wage. I'm not talking about the lowest paid. I'm talking about middle England. I'm talking about the middle classes who are now having to take the kids out of private school, who've got the tax on the private schools, who've got the extra VAT, who have got mortgages which are going up. All those people who've strived to thrive and now find life very difficult. Simon, can you hang on? Let me just bring Simon in. Just pop into this.
Look, I mean, 53% of people in Britain take out of the system more than they put in. So it's like in the United States, a fairly small percentage of people who are paying the bulk of the bills. And economic growth, I think I looked in the fourth quarter, was 0.1%.
Yeah.
And it's been growing slower. The United States has grown like a third as much as Britain in 25 years. So the system is simply not producing enough wealth, and they keep taking more and more of it. So everybody's getting poorer, and we're going to get to the point where, you know, the Beatles left in the 70s, the last time that Labour whacked the hexes up to the rates that they're heading. And that would be a disaster for the country, to take the Dysons and the entrepreneurs and the wealth generators and the brilliant people out of the country.
And I think there's speculation, isn't it, that 92% of all Muslim households are on social benefits?
Yeah, so many. We give out more now in benefits than we even take in income tax. That is
unsustainable.
Well, that includes pensions, to be clear.
Biggest benefit of all.
Well, but that is a country that is dying. When you are giving out more than you're taking in to such a large degree, well, that's before we've even talked about how much we're paying in interest on our loans.
There are two things from the conversation just now. The first is, I agree with you that we need to attract a lot more investment into this country, and that is why I know that it's very, very boring to talk about it all the time, but Brexit was the greatest catastrophe economically of the last generation, because it means it's a slow puncture in the economy, and it's an invisible puncture, because we never got to see the investment that would have poured into this country, because it just isn't coming in. So that is why the OBR and other very, very respected economic bodies say that they put the economic cost to Britain's GDP anything between sort of 4% to sort of upwards, I think, sort of, up to 10% or even more. So that is something that we will have to talk about in the next sort of few years, about how we once again become the kind of country that does attract investment and sort of R&D and all kinds of the most talented people in the world, not shutting the door on this thing.
Listen to yourself. Listen to yourself. We need to bring in global investment from massive corporations, from drug companies to do research and development.
But you only attract that if you have low taxes, because the more you tax of anything, the less you get. It's driving them away. Like I keep saying, that that every 45 minutes a millionaire leaves the UK. To Bev's point earlier, we're losing from the UK the best and the brightest who are going elsewhere.
Well, people are going elsewhere because, for example, in Australia, for example, a doctor can earn, I think, twice as much as they can on the NHS. So, government policy is not going to be able to change Australia's sort of economic or wage climate. So there are all kinds of problems.
But in that case, well, the only party that's talking about reforming the NHS in any particular way is Reform, and that's another conversation. Why do people have to leave the NHS?
That's not true. And also these figures that are bandied about millionaires.
We're not keeping them at the moment.
These figures about millionaires leaving the country, the original story that emerged from was a company that specialises in giving people visas to set up in a new country after leaving Britain. And there are no proper facts from the government, no stats about such people. So it is a completely nonsense statistic. But the fact is that the people leaving that we should be bothered about are young people that can't get on the housing ladder, can't build a business, can't get a wife and kids and raise them in a home of an appropriate size. And that's one of the things doing that is the extractive economy we have of landlordism, where if you give a 25-year-old a pay rise, you know full well that most of it is going to go to some 70-year-old who's got 6 mortgages and 8 houses, and not to the actual person. And I would suggest that Labour ending no-fault evictions and trying to improve the conditions for renters is a fundamental thing for a big part of our society being able to get ahead.
Because young people feel they have absolutely no stake in society, and that's why they don't feel... That's why people say... I've talked a lot on this programme before about why so few people in Britain, young people, would be prepared to defend this country. And one of the reasons for that is that they don't feel they have any stake in how this country is run. They don't feel they see sort of global, sort of corporations sort of running our sort of public services. They see they have no chance of owning a home of their own and so passing on that wealth to their kids. And I kind of feel it's a big distraction when we talk about the 7% of parents who send their kids to private schools, Bev. Those are not the people who are struggling to own homes.
Jonathan, it's not all about home ownership. I think that's really important. I do think for home ownership, the ability to buy your own home is incredibly important still to a lot of British people. I totally agree with you. But you're talking about a generation who are feeling disillusioned, and then they see, and I don't want to bring everything back to this because it's not my style, but I think there's something quite real. Then they see people arrive on a boat and be given dentistry, a house, and that sense of unfairness is then becoming very depressed.
But Bev,
You've got a generation that don't want to go on benefits. They don't want to go on benefits, and then they're looking and going, well, hang on, why shouldn't I take benefits when those people are coming over the 200,000 now, and they are coming and they are taking that money? They are gaming the system.
Bev,
why don't I just sit around and play PlayStation all day, and I'll claim some benefits as well?
Even when I go to the UK, I want to say to border control, where's my free 4-star hotel?
The most popular part of the party for young people now is the Green Party, who are the most openly pro-migrant party in the UK. And so obviously there are some young people who are voting reform, but it's not a majority or anything close to a majority. So if what you were saying was correct, then all these young people will be saying, I'm going to go for the anti-migrant party, like as happens in France, for example, where actually the Front National or the Rassemblement National is the most popular party for young people. That's not the case in Britain. So I think that your kind of hypothesis is wrong.
There is some truth in that. There is some truth in that. You're absolutely right. But what else did the Green Party say when they talk about we should just open all our borders? But they also say, we're going to look after you. They say to these young people, the state will look after you.
Because they want to give people hope, make hope normal again. Make hope normal again. And that's what Labour has done wrong. Because what Labour did when they came into office is they immediately just said doom and after doom message saying it's going to get worse, it's going to get worse, it's going to get worse. So of course people are going to think there's no hope. And it was a completely catastrophic comms error. They should have said we are going to make things better and set out a way for them to do that. But they sort of hamstrung themselves by blocking off all avenues to raise revenue before the election. So that was the original sin of the government. And then obviously by annoying all the pensioners by threatening to take their winter fuel payments away, which is obviously sort of cat-handed and done in the wrong way. So
and
Labour
the farmers,
really...
It was the pensioners.
That didn't cut through. The farmers didn't cut through.
It was, and you might think, and it was. You might say, well, who cares about parents who've got kids at private school? But most of them, the ones who've had to take their kids out of private school, are the doctors that your heart is bleeding for. It is the lawyers. It is other teachers as well. Because guess who that has not affected? Hang on, Jonathan. Guess who that VAT on private schools has not even affected
the oligarchs,
in
obviously.
the slightest.
The oligarchs and the super rich, of course.
It's the oligarchs. It's your globalist mates. It's the Chinese. It's the Russians. It's the Americans that live in the UK. They don't care. They can pay 20% of VAT. And so all you've done now, all Labour have done in the UK is provide private school education to the very richest because they didn't think it through.
Well, they're not providing private school education because it's private.
And sorry, can I just say...
We've got to take a quick break. We're going to have a quick... Oh, we've got some music. No, Benjamin, hold that thought. We'll be back in just a minute after the weather. Here we go. We've got to take a quick break.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning. Yes, it's weather update time from the Met Office here on GB News. A chilly start out there for many of us today. There's quite a few showers around across Scotland and they'll be spreading south. So it's a mixture of sun and showers really through the day. A bright start in the south, but it is quite cold. Temperatures only slowly rising. A chill in the breeze as well, which is coming in from the northwest, pushing this band of showery rain across northern England into Wales and across the Midlands. A mixture of sunshine and showers will follow, but the showers tending to fade from central Scotland and Northern Ireland this afternoon. So some good spells of sunshine here, but temperatures struggling, only really in the low to maybe mid-teens across the south, but clouding over here through the course of the afternoon. Still a few showers to come across eastern England into this evening time. Not too many in the southwest, so generally here we'll see some fine weather to end the day, as we will across Wales. But again, quite quickly those temperatures dropping away. That chilly air coming in from the northwest, and also by this evening more showers packing in across western Scotland with, yes, a little bit of snow over the tops of the mountains, but some sunny spells across eastern Scotland. As we go through the evening, we'll see more of these showers tending to drift south, so returning to northern England as we go through the evening. More widespread across Northern Ireland also, and eventually some cropping up across North Wales. Much of the south, though, becoming dry, lengthy clear spells here. Not quite as cold as last night because there's more cloud around and more breeze, but there could still easily be some pockets of frost here and there. Most towns and cities dropping to about 5 to 7 Celsius. But a chilly feel on Wednesday, and more showers to come, I suspect, tomorrow as well. Maybe again dry, sunny start across the southeast, but generally expect showers tomorrow. And tomorrow's showers likely to be pretty heavy. Hail and thunder mixed in for good measure also. And again, with the winds coming in from the north or northwest, that is going to bring a chilly feel, despite some sunny spells between the showers. Temperatures below average, 10 to 14 Celsius. Goodbye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome back. The inbox is very, very busy this evening. I am reading your messages. I'm sorry I've not got too many of them to read them out. Jackie says destroying private schools and government-funded private school places was a massive mistake. Many children in care were struggling to get a place at school. The class sizes have become too big. Now, Jay says, proud of you, Bev. You need to rant more about these globalist parasites. Thank you very much. Paula said, Liz is doing his usual trick of talking over the show as usual. Oh, don't go anywhere, Paula. She says, good night. You know what? Jonathan has strong opinions he wants to get out, and I don't mind that at all. That's why he's here. It'd be much more difficult if he didn't say anything. Right, keep your messages coming. gbnews.com/your say. We are going to look at some of the front pages now. Let's have a quick look. The Mirror, rebels turn on Starmer. Of course, they are all leading with the only story in town. The Independent is saying Streeting is poised for leadership bid, but the Prime Minister vows to fight on. This will all unravel tomorrow morning. Make sure you stay with GB. Just keep us on all night. Just keep us on all night. You're going to have breakfast coming on at 6, and then the action will happen from tomorrow morning. City AM, they're saying Kia today, gone tomorrow. Of course, that's a financial newspaper. We have it says core blimey. Oh no, it's something else. That's a different story in the bottom. I don't know what that is. But of course, that's a financial paper. What are the impacts on the markets going to be about Starmer? We haven't even talked about that. The Daily Express is saying PM on edge. This same picture of him looking just forlorn and a bit sad, like sad, unhappy and sad, pathetic, frankly. The Guardian, Starmer's survival on the line as the cabinet ministers urge him to quit. As we said just a little earlier, if the Guardian is running on that, you know that his time is up. The Metro, Starmer eyes British steel as plot thickens. Yeah, that was a line from his speech today, saying this was his big announcement. He's going to nationalise British steel, but only after a consultation, close brackets, which was a little bit pathetic. The iPaper, Starmer mutiny grows with Labour Party in open revolt against PM. They are telling us all the same stories, all the papers. The Daily Star, Dear PM, by order of the traitors, you have been murdered. Of course, tapping into the TV show The Traitors, and under those cloaks there you've got Angela Rayner and Wes Streeting. The Daily Mail, Starmer on the brink, they're saying, as the cabinet ministers tell him it is time to go. Government in chaos is the headline there on the Daily Mail. And the Telegraph, time to go, cabinet tells Starmer. There's a theme here. Everybody's running with this same story, and also the same image of Starmer with his downturned mouth. At the Times, cabinet turns on Starmer. So let me know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. With me now is former editor of the Sunday Express, David Wooding. David, thank you so much for joining us on the Late Show Live. What a pleasure to have your company this evening. When you look at those front pages there, all unanimous, all very predictable. What does it mean now? What happens tomorrow morning, David?
Well, it's all going to happen tomorrow by the looks of it. The Cabinet will clearly deliver the hammer blow tomorrow when they tell him the game's up, I suspect, because already he's had 3 Cabinet ministers who've told him that he can't go on much longer. And of course, there's those 80 MPs who say it's time for a change. So it's just really, really difficult for him to cling on any further than tomorrow. If he does, I'll be very surprised.
Yeah, look, they had a convincing election win nearly 2 years ago. Some people would say it wasn't necessarily that Labour were particularly popular, or even Keir Starmer was particularly popular. Everyone was just sick of the Tories by that point, so it was better to go elsewhere. But when people look back on this premiership, what will they point to suggest that the wheels started to come off quite quickly? Where did it all go wrong?
Well, I think the reason he became Prime Minister, because he was very lucky. He was a man in the right place at the right time. He took over from a Labour Party run by Jeremy Corbyn, very, very hard left, and a bit of a shambolic leader in his own way. And he effectively backed up Jeremy Corbyn. He campaigned for him to be Prime Minister. Of course, he got absolutely pasted.
Oh, I think we've lost David. We've lost David. His line's gone down there. Let me ask my panel this. When people look back, Hilary, at Starmer's premiership, I mean, he's still there, as we've just discussed. He may not be gone very quickly. You've probably got at least a few more months probably living in that house. But what will they pinpoint as why this has gone so wrong? In fact, Americans keep asking me this question, and they must be doing the same to you. Somebody said to me today, while I was queuing for my social security number all day in an office at a day of my life I won't get back.
Yes.
But somebody was saying to me, what happened? He was so popular. Why is he so unpopular now?
Well, I don't know that he was so popular. I think what people forget is I don't think that there was this national mandate for the Labour Party. It was more a vote against the Conservatives. That's what I think it was. I think it was more a protest vote. So I think, first of all, he was never really popular. And basically, he's failed to do what the Labour Party stands for. And we said it earlier this evening, and I'll say it again, which is the word Labour is for the labourer. They're there for the tradesmen, they're there for the working people. And when working people see illegal migrants getting benefits, getting housing, and being provided for things where they're put to the back of the line, people can't get into their local council houses. There is a housing shortage across the British Isles, and the migrant problem has really exacerbated that. That is one of the core issues. So the cost of living crisis is exacerbated by the very policies that Keir Starmer pretends to espouse to.
And do you think, as we sit here in Washington, D.C., Simon, Trump's success in certain areas has been very bad for the Prime Minister? I'm thinking particularly about illegal migration.
Shutting the border immediately.
Shutting the border
when he came in.
Effectively. I think maybe because there's such a stark contrast here, that people in the UK have gone, well, hang on a minute, they've got some things really right in America. Yep. What are you doing over there in number 10?
And it's a lot easier in Britain because you have a parliamentary system where if Parliament decides, you can change the law from left to right in a week. Whereas we have 3 branches, and the president's getting sued left, right, and center. They're trying to defund him, and he's still achieved a lot. Having said that, I don't think Starmer ever wanted to close the borders. That's not like a typical Labour position. He's doing it because he feels kind of backed into it, but his heart's not in it.
Well, he's saying he's going to do it. He hasn't done
lawyer,
it.
Right. I mean, he spent his career fighting to stop people being taken out of Britain. I would say it's more economics. This is the first generation in the U.S. and probably in Britain too that doesn't think they're going to do better than their parents, that doesn't have that optimism, that hope, and that is key to any culture. The fertility rates going through the toilet all over Europe, including Britain. I think it's not quite as bad as
it's not
Italy
sustainable.
Or South Korea.
It's not replacing.
It's not sustainable.
Right,
you just can't keep replacing
it's elimination
yourself with
level.
other people and then hope that your country and your society are going to survive.
So you think that, but if you went to people in the street and said to them, what is it about this Labour Party that means you have made such a statement in the local election, say the votes for reform? How much of it would be about him as the man, and how much of it would be about the policies?
Well, they're either the leader of the party and they lead the policy, or they don't. If they don't lead and they're not setting the policy, then what's the point of having them for Prime Minister? I think that what it's done is he's the figurehead for the failings of the Labour Party. The cost of living crisis affects everyone. We know both sides of the pond. Everybody votes primarily on what in America is referred to as pocketbook issues, pocketbooks being handbag in England. So it's those economic issues. That's what really people feel first and foremost, regardless regardless of their politics. So when you have a cost of living crisis the way that it is now, and again, I keep saying it, but when the migrants are exacerbating that very point, that is what the issue is more than anything. And also, don't forget, Sir Keir Starmer, to Simon's great point, as a lawyer that actually stood up for all these migrant rights, he's actually on the opposite side of what everybody's really believing in, what everybody actually really wants. That's the point. That's why I think that you see this actual vitriol against him as a person.
Vicky has got in touch from home. She said it went wrong with the OAPs and the pensioners, and then they're fast-tracking us to prison for calling us far-right racist thugs. Good point, cracked it. And don't forget the Hills riots. Set fire to buses, etc. He did nothing. He showed us who he was then. There has been a catalogue of errors, hasn't there? Well, tonight the Prime Minister is probably writing his speech to resign in the morning. Stay with us, back in a minute.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning. Yes, it's weather update time from the Met Office here on GB News. A chilly start out there for many of us today. There's quite a few showers around across Scotland and they'll be spreading south. So it's a mixture of sun and showers really through the day. A bright start in the south, but it is quite cold. Temperatures only slowly rising. A chill in the breeze as well, which is coming in from the northwest, pushing this band of showery rain across northern England into Wales and across the Midlands. A mixture of sunshine and showers will follow, but the showers tending to fade from central Scotland and Northern Ireland this afternoon. So some good spells of sunshine here, but temperatures struggling, only really in the low to maybe mid-teens across the south, but clouding over here through the course of the afternoon. Still a few showers to come across eastern England into this evening time. Not too many in the southwest, so generally here we'll see some fine weather to end the day, as we will across Wales. But again, quite quickly those temperatures dropping away. That chilly air coming in from the northwest, and also by this evening more showers packing in across western Scotland with, yes, a little bit of snow over the tops of the mountains, but some sunny spells across eastern Scotland. As we go through the evening, we'll see more of these showers tending to drift south, so returning to northern England as we go through the evening. More widespread across Northern Ireland also, and eventually some cropping up across North Wales. Much of the south, though, becoming dry, lengthy clear spells here. Not quite as cold as last night because there's more cloud around and more breeze, but there could still easily be some pockets of frost here and there. Most towns and cities dropping to about 5 to 7 Celsius. But a chilly feel on Wednesday, and more showers to come, I suspect, tomorrow as well. Maybe again dry, sunny start across the southeast, but generally expect showers tomorrow. And tomorrow's showers likely to be pretty heavy. Hail and thunder mixed in for good measure also. And again, with the winds coming in from the north or northwest, that is going to bring a chilly feel. Despite some sunny spells between the showers, temperatures below average, 10 to 14 Celsius. Goodbye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Let's take a listen to Sir Keir Starmer's reset speech, in which his inspiring policy was a closer relationship with the EU.
I want to remind you what Nigel Farage said about Brexit. He said it would make us richer. Wrong. It made us poorer. He said it would reduce migration. Wrong. Migration went through the roof. He said it would make us more secure. Wrong again. The last government was defined by breaking our relationship with Europe. This Labour government will be defined by rebuilding our relationship with Europe, by putting Britain at the heart of Europe.
It's like, I can't even explain what he said this morning, given the results on Thursday. Let's discuss this with former UKIP leader Henry Bolton and former Liberal Democrat councillor Matthew Hulbert. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Henry, you must share my exasperation when you see Starmer's response to getting absolutely battered by Reform voters come out and say the solution to this is closer ties with the EU. What is he thinking, Henry? Who was he talking to?
Well, isn't this just such a good example of how out of touch he is? He, as you say, he got battered. There's no better description for it. He got battered in all the, sort of the old working class sort of Labour heartlands, if you like, which should be almost Labour's by right historically, but because he's moved so far off the sort of the patriotic working class Brit sort of grounding, he's unbelievably out of touch. But it's not just the Brexit side of things. It's just, focusing on that is just mind-blowingly inept. But underneath that is the fact that this government, under Keir Starmer, has utterly and completely failed the working class, as he likes to call it. Because this is not a government for growth. This is a government that has driven ordinary working class working households into the ground with its taxation, small businesses with the national insurance contributions, for the employers' national insurance contributions. Every single step that this man has led this government through has been something that has really suppressed the population and suppressed growth. So it's absolutely unbelievable. And I think, to back up what I'm saying, the two sort of front runners, if you like, in the sort of in who might replace him, Andy Burnham and Wes Streeting. One of the things that they have in common is that they believe that the government's plan for growth is I'm going to say meaningless. Neither of them has put it that way. And that there needs to be a credible plan for growth, not tax the country into the ground. So, I mean, it's just unbelievable. He has shown time and time again, and I think this is about the personality of the man, his demonstrated sort of inability to sort of understand the ordinary person, and the multiple errors of judgment that he's demonstrated, whether it's Mandelson, whether it's the Stegel silence, whether it's any of this. And basically, I think that the population in the north, yes, that the Brexit thing is an aggravating thing, it's going to irritate them, and the MPs who would like to represent them, but it's also demonstrating that he's got totally the wrong. He's doubling down on policies that are ideological rather than having empathetic with the population. So all of that, I mean,
completely.
Inactive
I
throughout.
agree. It is. Matthew, Lib Dems did all right in the election, not as well maybe as you might have hoped. But when you hear Starmer speak today, what did you expect to hear from him? And as a Lib Dem, what was your assessment of it? What he said about the fact he's going to put us back in the middle of the EU? What?
Hi, Bev. Great to be with you, and hello to Henry as well. Well, I mean, I think the funny thing about Keir Starmer's dreadful speech today was that it was neither fair nor foul. It ended up pleasing no one. It didn't please the likes of Henry, you know, ardent Brexiteers, and it certainly didn't please the likes of me, an ardent pro-European, because although he said he wants us to be back in the heart of Europe, he wasn't prepared to do what we Lib Dems believe is needed for that to be the case, which is for us to rejoin the single market and the customs union. So he just kind of says words. And, you know, hopes that Labour MPs will be happy about what he was saying. And be no doubt at all, Bev, this wasn't a speech for the country. This was a speech for one group of people, and that was the Labour MPs. And why was he talking to them? Because those are the ones that he wanted to save him his job. And has it worked? Well, look at where we are.
Well, that is what a couple of political insiders have told me as well tonight. Actually, that's because I've been wondering all day, who was he talking to? And the analysis from people like yourself, Matthew, was he's talking to his MPs because he knows he's on the chopping block, and he's trying to get as many of them on side so that we don't have a number as we sit here tonight that's greater than 80. And Henry, do you think there will have been many Labour MPs who sat there and listened to what he had to say and went, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I do like him after all? Like, are they that shallow that they too are not in touch with what the country wants?
I don't think there might be a handful, but I think they have given up on him. I think they are, if you like, on the coalface. They are the ones who are facing electoral defeat. They are the ones who are going to lose their jobs. They understand that the people who they represent in their constituencies have lost all faith and confidence in the Prime Minister. So I don't think so, Bev. I think that they've got really a... it's reluctant because I think they are intrinsically the present school of MPs, Labour MPs, are reluctant to change. They're reluctant to instability, to court instability. But I think it's gone too far now. I think that's why there was no move before the elections. They just wanted. They were hoping that maybe you know, something would happen, but it didn't. So here we are. No, so I don't think so. I think he's toast. The question now is when. Yeah. And an interesting element to that is if. Yeah, it's definitely when, not if. I mean, I think he's gone. But it's when. And the two front runners, as I say, Burnham and Streeting. Well, if it's really down to which one he supports, in a sense. If he were to resign tomorrow and say, right, I'm walking out of the door tomorrow. Well, Wes Streeting is really the only option for the Parliamentary Labour Party because he's already an MP. If, on the other hand, Starmer says, OK, look, I'll hang on so that Andy Burnham can come in, and there's talk of Clive Lewis standing down or resigning to trigger a by-election, allowing Andy Burnham into that to win that by-election, to come into Parliament and then be eligible to compete for the leadership. Then I think, that we're talking about September, probably after the summer recess. Yeah. So it's really, a lot of it is down, I think, to where Starmer, which side of that Starmer is tending to go.
Yeah. It's not, Matthew, whatever happens tomorrow, and it might be that he comes out fairly early. One of our previous, Benjamin Butterworth, said that it will be about the start of Britain's Newsroom, which is at 9:30 tomorrow morning, hosted by the wonderful Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates, formerly yours truly. But if he comes out tomorrow morning and does make his resignation speech, I don't see him going anywhere soon. To circle back on Henry's point there, I think he's the kind of guy that will he'll just drag it out. That's his character. He's never dynamic. He's not going to do anything dynamic tomorrow. He's probably still going to be there in September. And what does that mean for the country?
Well, I'm hoping, Bev, to see a fit podium guy. The guy who comes out and does all the tech stuff with the podium outside of Downing Street. Don't quite know what that says about me, but I think I do know what it says. But in terms of Keir Starmer,
it says something about how interesting politics is at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But look, I'm afraid the guy was never suited to be Prime Minister. I've never known a Prime Minister or anyone so senior in politics who was so unconcerned about the politics of politics, right? Who apparently, I've been told, loathes the politics of politics. Well, I mean, I've been a mere borough councillor, but even I know that you have to understand that politics isn't just about saying something and then it happening. It's about you taking people with you. It's about explaining it to the audience. It's about knowing what your opponents are going to say. And he apparently was concerned with none of that whatsoever. He just is a technocrat who thought that he could say something and it had happened. And I think I've got the impression today, Bev, when he was giving his speech, that he's like pleading with, I mean, as you say, it was mostly towards Labour MPs, but, in terms of the wider audience, it's almost like he's saying, why don't you understand how great I am? Why don't you, Labour MPs and the British public, understand that I am the wonderful Keir Starmer and you should support me and I've done all this wonderful stuff for the country? He doesn't get that people are sick to death of the sight of him, and I don't mean to be rude, but that I don't mean to sound personal, but I'm afraid even I, watching the speech today, Bev, thought I'm actually fed up with the sound of this guy's voice. And when you reach that stage, it's over.
Matthew, I've never heard you be so impolite. The only thing I would say in Starmer's defence is that his argument being, I don't want more chaos, and what we've heard tonight, especially as he won't have any intention of getting the removals men in soon, there's already a lot of chaos and it's going to be bumpy for a very long time. Matthew, can I just ask you, remind me your area where you were a councillor, a Lib Dem councillor, who won last week in your area?
We didn't have elections, actually. We were one of the few. I was very saddened not to get a vote last week, but we'd had our round of voting here in Hinckley and Bosworth in Leicestershire, so it was a year where I didn't get to vote. I was very sad about it.
Oh, so you were one of the victims of the boundary changes, were you?
Well, basically, I'm not sure about that, to be honest with you, but we'd had our borough council elections a couple of years ago. We'd had our county elections last year. There was nothing to vote for. No one left to vote for, if I can put it that way.
I think many of you might not appreciate that with local elections, not the whole country votes every year. So we have this rotation, if you like. So it's staggered. So we have an election every year. And so it varies the number of councillors.
Matthew, who does run the council in your area now?
It is a Lib Dem council, and it's been that for most of the past 20 years. And, when I get introduced very kindly by you guys as former Lib Dem councillor, I was on Hinckley Bosworth Borough Council 2011 to 2015, and I was on a parish council as well at other times. But yeah, so it's been a Lib Dem council for all that time, and I might just say it's because Lib Dems might not be flashy, we might not be the loudest, we might not be the most charismatic, but actually I think most people, if they were being fair, would accept that when we get in, the reason why we tend to be re-elected is because actually we do get the potholes fixed and we do get on with the hard yards of actually doing the community politics. We're pretty good at that as Lib Dems.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair assessment, Matthew. I think it really is. We've got to go. I'm so sorry, Matthew. Can I just say that your local council's loss of you is GB News' gain. So we're very pleased to have you here. Henry Bolton, Matthew Hulbert, thank you so much for joining me as usual. Right, my panel is still here with me, Hilary and Simon Hankinson, and in London we've got Benjamin Busworth and Jonathan Liss. What should we talk about, fellas? What did that bring to mind there, Hilary? We were listening to that conversation there about whether we should go back in the EU.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, actually, the British people did not vote for that. They voted for Brexit, but we never really have had Brexit. There hasn't been a Brexit. The civil service was against Brexit from the very beginning, so it's never really been enacted, and that I think is a great pity.
But it's not just, Simon, my frustration when you hear people who are very pro-EU say, you know, it's been the worst thing we ever did. Unfortunately, I genuinely mean this unfortunately, we will never know the positives or the negatives of Brexit because COVID came along hot on the heels. So just when we might have been getting on our feet after Brexit, that then caused a bonfire of any benefits we might have seen, didn't it?
And the immigrants we're being punished by the French with all those migrants.
Right, you didn't pull out of the European law that governs migration. The European Convention on Human Rights is this sort of giant albatross around the neck of efforts, even of the feckless government, to try to put people who are failed asylum seekers to send them back home, so they just hang around forever. But I've never been a fan of Europe as a nation state. It's never going to be one. It's not going to be the Roman Empire come back to life. It's a trade group. It's great when it does that. And the United States, just today, we issued a statement saying that we were not going to participate, I think it was a couple of days ago, a conference on the Global Compact on Migration. It's this attempt to create a world government. I'm sorry to use the word globalism. It doesn't mean what you think it means. But the idea is nation states, just like families and towns, should run their own affairs to the best, to as much as they possibly can. And governments should only do the least that they absolutely have to do. And so I think deep down, people didn't want to be part of a Europe that was a political thing as much as an economic thing, so that they could travel, go to college, participate in Europe, in every way that's good, but not be told what to do and how big their pints should be and what their sausages should be made of.
Right. Benjamin, do you have a strong opinion on what sausages should be made of?
No, but I do think that we would be well off to be to have closer relationships with Europe. That was an unexpected question.
To my two London lefties there. How do you feel about the EU dictating your sausage content?
Oh, you mean the Europe, the French that send the migrants over? Yeah, right.
The EU. Sorry, who are you talking to, Bev?
Go on, Benjamin, you can finish and then Jonathan come in.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that, Keir Starmer's absolutely right to say that we should have better and closer relations and integration with the EU because, the experts say that we could get 3% growth to our GDP if we joined, for example, the customs union. Now, we would kill for that. And actually, I think there are a lot of people in this country, all they've seen because of Brexit is a load more red tape for exporting and maybe importing from the EU. Take Marks & Spencer, for example, which used to be one of the biggest sandwich sellers in Paris and now doesn't sell a single one, not because the quality of its food got worse, but because of the red tape that Brexit put in the way.
It was always the biggest lie in the world that the EU is responsible for red tape. The EU actually, one of the big things that people hate about the EU is actually streamlined regulation in a single market. The single market was actually helping to reduce bureaucracy so it could treat, from an economic perspective, the 28 member states as one single block. So you would get rid of the red tape, which had previously blighted trade between the different countries because there were all the different sort of regulations and mechanisms and non-standardization between those different units. That is why it used to be such a Thatcherite idea to have a single market. It was literally Margaret Thatcher's idea, among other people, in the 1980s because it facilitated free trade. And it's the most extraordinary political phenomenon of my lifetime that it was Margaret Thatcher's political party, the Conservatives, that smashed that up in the name of nativism and sort of trashing so much of our economy in the process. And what you had in Brexit was something that's never been resolved, is something that we talked about all the time, which is that you had two irreconcilable views of what Brexit would be. You had this kind of proto-left-wing idea of sort of, protectionism, sort of taking back control of industries and whatever. And then you had the Thatcherism on steroids, the Nigel Farage version of Brexit, which is the Singapore-on-Thames model, where we presumably or supposedly go for this sort of very, very low-tax, high-investment economy with very, very low regulation. And that's not what people in the Red Wall voted for. So when you say that Brexit was not delivered, first of all, that's not true. People weren't voting for a version of Brexit. They were voting for Britain to leave the European Union, which happened. But second of all, it was impossible to deliver with the Brexit that people wanted, because no Brexit was the same thing. People were voting for different things, and a lot of people got disappointed, as we always said they would, because there was no coherent offer on the table.
And there's no doubt that immigration played a massive part in the motivations for so many people that voted for Brexit, and they've had those hopes of fewer people coming from abroad and suppressing wages and overrunning our infrastructure and our public services. They've had those hopes absolutely squashed.
And then I always use the Stilton example, because of all the bureaucrats in the EU making the rules and regulations. Roquefort and Gorgonzola and all the blue cheeses from the European countries were able to be sold into the UK, but Stilton was not allowed anywhere in the EU. That, to me, sums it up.
I've never heard that cheese story before, have you, fellas?
Well, I've never heard that. I've never heard that before. I'd have to sort of read up on it. But obviously, the EU believing that Brexit has made life a lot harder for exporters. What you had at the start of Brexit was the fresh food produce was being sort of held up at the border and dying, and you had sort of salmon producers going out of business in Scotland. No one voted for any of that. And when Hillary, you said that people voted for as least 10 years ago, that was 10 years ago.
I've got a guest waiting. But isn't this interesting, Simon? Because this is to your point. When we start talking about Brexit, we end up getting tied up in sausages and cheese. Whereas actually, for me, it's much more about the digital expectations of European Union members. I don't want to be on that facial recognition system that they've rolled out. I don't want to be on that digital. I'm delighted that we have the sovereignty to push back on some of that if we want to now. All that regulatory individual being tied to the state, that's what worries me about being in the EU. I'm so pleased we're not actually part of the EU now, and I voted to remain, remember? Another part of that political journey, Jonathan, that we've discussed before. Right, moving on. Now, let's talk to a former Green Party councillor candidate, Fahima Mohammed, this evening. Fahima, thank you so much for joining me. I haven't spoken to you since these local elections last week. Your assessment of them now as we sit here on Monday night with the Prime Minister potentially, probably, likely to go in the morning. Who'd have thought that would happen after the events of Thursday?
Well, nice to see you too, Bev. Just wanted to say that, yeah, obviously, tonight isn't just about whether Keir Starmer survives another news cycle. I think it's whether about, public believes in Labour and knows what it stands for anymore. I mean, the local election results weren't just, a small warning shot. I think that it was a political earthquake. Voters from both directions are abandoning Labour, some to reform out of frustration on immigration, as we've said, identity and cost of living, and others to the Greens because Labour has become managerial, cautious and disconnected from its own values. So as someone who was once a supporter of Labour, I think Starmer's biggest problem isn't just one speech and one policy, it's that people no longer know what they actually, believe in. And he came in promising change and stability, but for many voters, now it feels like as if, they got austerity in a different suit. So again, I just feel like, when it comes to, while removing winter fuel, and talking about compassion but making it tougher and tougher on migrants, as well as speaking about climate leadership while watering down green ambition. Now, again, that, and then expect your traditional base to stay emotionally invested was, completely wrong. This is much bigger, again, than just, Labour.
We've billed you as a former Green Party councillor candidate. Are you still a member of the Green Party?
Yes, I am. I am going to continue. I was looking.
What is it about? Just tell me, what is it about the Green Party that you like?
Well, especially when Zach Polinsky came onto the scene only a few months ago, I think it was only 8 months ago, and he started speaking, it felt like there was somewhere we, especially centre-left, feel we can connect with regards to everything that he was talking about. And I was looking elsewhere because I was really disappointed with Labour. And I've always been a Labour supporter for many sort of years. So, it was just, looking for something that was not so politically hollow anymore. And also... But what
is it, though? Is it about him decriminalising drugs? Is it about him advocating LGBTQ rights more loudly? What is it that appeals to you? Is it about saving the planet? I've not seen him talk about that recently.
The Green Party is not there to say that, they are going to have open borders like most people say. It's about dealing with it humanely and making sure that, we don't have sort of immigration managed inhumanely. And it was legal and practical, not through scapegoating, through detention theatre and fear politics. So that's what I would say. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not even about everyone saying, oh, it's about, we talked about the drug policy as well. It's about, creating less gangs and not having, this sort of like market where it's actually making people criminal. I work within sort of like the criminal justice system as well, where I see people who are ex-criminals every day in my job. And I do see the route of rehabilitation more and more support for people than anything. And obviously prohibition right now is not working. So again, it was things like that. The fact that I felt belonging, even though I know in the past you mentioned, why is it, especially as a Muslim, you would go green when a lot of your sort of like beliefs may not align? Well, actually it does, because we are people that are not being seen as the other and as a problem. We are people of different backgrounds and minorities coming together and being, actually accepted. When you see, someone like Reform, for example, even when they have their councillors and candidates just from another background and faith, as much as it's not their policy, a lot of people get racism. They get people that don't want them in there. So again, it doesn't feel comfortable for someone, especially like myself. And this is sort of like the next thing I would say is a bigger picture for us to feel part of Britain and British politics and be included as British, because we're not.
But is it Britain? Is it British? Because so many of the Green Party councillors stood on a Palestinian ticket. They stood there, and we'll see it at the next election. We will see it at the next election that they are pro-Palestine, and that is what they wanted to be elected for, when actually as a local councillor you've got to decide when the bins get taken out, or whether your potholes get full, or whether your street lighting is sufficient. I think it's astonishing that there were candidates in local council elections talking about pairing up with Palestine. Fahima, just explain that to me.
Well, it's really important that we do understand that Palestine is a very important issue. I mean, it is one of the policies of the country, foreign policy. And just because you saw clips...
Not when you're putting your bins out. Not when you're putting your bins out.
When it comes to the by-election... When it comes to the by-election, people did vote on their local issues. Me being a party member as well, I didn't go in there even thinking anything about anything foreign policy, but that was part of it. Okay, when I sit in these meetings, and I am very active locally with the members that are here in my sort of like area, we didn't talk about just Palestine. It was actually one of various issues, and the main issues was exactly as you mentioned. It was about schools, it was about buses, it was about roadworks, it was about local council tax. So just because a clip goes out, and most people will talk about not just local policies when they are doing marketing, for example, they will talk about policies that the entire sort of party also sort of like aligns with. That's all I see. I don't see it as being a ticket. And the thing is, it's not just about also Muslims. It's not just about Palestine. It's about being anti-war. It's about not being involved in something that they feel is not, legal, or it's criminal, or it's war crimes and things like that. So I've not mentioned it until other people have mentioned it, because for me, it is much bigger than just that. It is much more. It is very much a part of it, and I don't see anyone else talking about it as much. But again, I feel it's a party where we have belonging, where there's no sort of like outing and ousting others. That's what it is. And even if it is, I mean, I live in this country following the law of the land. And as much as, you know, whether I believe in something or not, and it doesn't align, I have colleagues, friends, and people that are clients that are LGBTQ+, who are trans, who I would, you know, respect their rights. And I feel this is a party that actually aligns with people that are the framework of modern Britain and includes them, not excludes them, and out of fear and threaten and blaming the other. That's why I sit with this party proudly, and I will continue to do so.
Would it be difficult? Just answer me this difficult question, Fahima, because it is. This is one of the assumptions is, of course, that there are Muslim communities who have seen the Green Party organisation locally in their area as a soft touch. They can infiltrate. I don't like that word, but I can't think of a better one under these circumstances. Because this is the accusation, that there are politically engaged, galvanised, organised Muslim communities who want to have more power and have used the local councils as a Trojan horse in order to secure more power in their area and therefore to suit their specific needs, with a view, perhaps, to the next election, to stand as MPs in the next election. Just respond to that accusation.
Well, firstly, if that was true, then we would have much more voters in the Green Party. But we've got several still that are Muslim in the Labour Party. We've got several still that are in Conservative. And we've got very many head of reform that are Muslim, you know, in that party. So again, that doesn't make sense. Muslim is not one block. We're not sectarian. We do have differences between us. We even have the independent going Muslims that are even against the Green Party. So Muslims are just like everybody else, and we have our own agendas, not necessarily all aligning with the same. And again, you know, if you say as well that it was about Gaza, then why isn't all the Muslims, you know, in the Green Party? And clearly they are not. So again, that goes against everything that those so-called allegedness and, you know, allegations and assumptions are made. We are spread throughout all different parties, and I myself have been told not to, you know, come here, speak, whether it's a certain channel, whether it's a certain party. Again, me, myself, you know, we are individuals voting for different issues. And in my area, the issues are very different.
Who would tell you not to come and speak to GB News?
Well, mainly very, very orthodox sort of Muslims, and I don't listen to anyone, to be honest, because, you know, it is sort of seen as, you know, some of the framing that is there is very much against Muslims and Islam, and a lot of the times, you know, I'm there to sort of like correct it to a certain extent, or at the same time I feel that, you know, you do allow a different voice. But again, you know, there's a lot of things that, you know, a lot of Muslims do not agree with the way in which this channel operates, and majority of it is based on sort of the negativity and the headlines just on Muslims. So that's why you wouldn't find very many people coming on here from that background, and you wouldn't find that they would support being here. So I do get the brunt from both sides a lot of the time. So, you know,
I'm sure you do, and I genuinely, I know you do, and I'm always interested to hear what you have to say, because I have so many questions that I think you are very well suited to answer, actually, and I think you do a really good job of putting the nuance across there, because we can sometimes see these issues in black and white, and it isn't as simple as that. I'm particularly interested, Fahima, in Muslim men who would be conservative in their outlook in terms of gender, sexuality, drug use, etc., aligning themselves with the Green Party when you've got Zach Polanski on stage dancing around with men in tiny little hot pants and little sequined crop tops, and talking about legalising drugs. What is going on in the minds of those men? That is where the suspicion arises from, because you would look and you go, well, you can't believe in what he believes. You just can't, because everything we know about you would suggest you disagree with him. So what exactly are you doing aligning yourself with that man?
Well, like I said before, we belong, and at the same time, not every person will agree with every other person in the party in every single way. You can step aside when it comes to maybe standing on stage, and a lot of people did, and it was only certain people that went there from the sort of Green Party. We didn't see the deputy leader, but what we see is, you know, we have a Jewish leader, we have a deputy leader Muslim, and we have so many members that represent the entire modern framework of the UK. And we can align and come together. Like I said, we work together, we live together, we have neighbours from different sort of backgrounds. So this is how we see it. And I think this is the way to move forward, is not to have separation and sort of like exclusion and blaming the other, regardless of where they come from. Even if we are so sort of like, you know, for women, we do not blame the entire trans sort of community and disregard their rights. What we say is there is still safeguarding. We don't say it's complete open borders. There still has to be, you know, sort of vetting. We don't say, you know, we want to legalize all drugs. You know, everyone puts policies out there, but when the manifesto comes, it has to be done in very responsible safeguarding measures and issues. So this is how it is. And again, you know, we're going to frame it the way we want, but that's not the reality for anyone.
What we saw from the Prime Minister again today, we need to wrap it up, was he went on stage today and he othered yet again people who are going to be at the Unite the Kingdom march at the weekend, a lot of whom will be literally grannies with a flask of tea and a Union Jack flag, who feel they want to be amongst people that make them feel at home. Just your thoughts on that march this weekend, Fahima. Would you go? Would you be happy to go along there as a British person who is involved in British politics?
Look, I think the idea, I can understand, Unite the Kingdom, that means a lot for a lot of people. And I don't believe that everyone that does take part actually is there like racist or bigotry or fascist or anything like that. But, you know, when we call it a hate march, from my side particularly, when we see speakers that are going on there and all they are talking about is anti-Islam, anti-Muslim, then those are the main speakers, and it does represent that. So if you're standing there listening to that, what does that say about you? When we go on the Palestine marches, the speakers and the people are there are anti-war, and you do get people that are also not in line with the way in which we follow. But those are not the Those are not the speakers. Those are not the people that are coming on to speak. You might have small groups and sections of it, and they are then, of course, according to law, they are criminalized, they are arrested, they are questioned, they are charged. But when you've got leaders and speakers that are in charge of those marches, speaking openly against a particular group and faith, that's the difference. There's a big difference. It's not about unite then, is it? Look at the speakers. No one's ever...
Yeah, but would you not... I would push... The only thing I would push back on that a little bit is I think some of the speakers at the rally that will happen this weekend, the march, they will be anti-Islamism and they will be anti-unfettered migration and they will be anti-illegal migration.
I listened to those speeches very clearly and their background on almost all of them who were foreign, not even the ones that are from here in the UK as well, the ones that are very, very extreme against Islam, which is fine. You can have that opinion. That's absolutely fine. But that's the reason why I wouldn't join, and many people wouldn't join, because, again, it's about blaming the other. It's about putting one group. It's like how, you know, Hitler did with the Nazis, to be honest, the Jews, okay? And that's, for me, that's how I see how people are looking at Muslims and making us in that sort of group, putting us all under one banner, and it's not like that. We are very unique and different and diverse, and you saying that we are in the Green Party shows that that's who we are. We can be different, we can belong, we can live.
You know what you could do? You know what you could do, Fahima? Because I think you're the kind of woman that would take this on. You should just go down there in a Union Jack. Go down in your Union Jack t-shirt, wave a Union Jack flag, and represent what you see as being a British Muslim. Why wouldn't you do that?
I am, but I actually personally don't go to any protest, whether it's you know, from the right or the left. I actually don't. I'm more academic based, and I speak differently, and I feel like, you know, I don't follow any particular group. So if I go there, I'm literally by myself. I don't align with anyone. When I speak, I am literally speaking for myself and by myself, because I do get the hate from both sides. So for me personally, that would be dangerous, because I don't sit with any group, and I do not sit, I'm very individual and very independent. So, but I am proudly British and love this country. And I think the whole idea of unite the kingdom would be amazing if it wasn't just targeting one group as, someone who is the enemy.
There might be quite a lot of GB News fans down there. You probably get asked for your autograph and quite a few selfies.
I doubt that very much.
You'd be very well known to our audience. Fahima, thank you so much. Fahima Mohammed there, a Green Party member and former councillor candidate. Well, should I talk to my panel about that now?
Yes, well,
go on.
I think it would be lovely if she went, and I think it would be lovely. I also think.
I think she'd. Do you know what? I don't think she'd be in any danger whatsoever.
No, and I think what I'd love to see her do, Bev, is I'd love to see her rally all of her Muslims friends who are British, who have assimilated, who love the country, who support the country, and have them also have a whole contingent there, and that to show that assimilation is possible.
I agree.
And it's only those that don't assimilate and don't take on British values that aren't wanted.
What do you think, Simon?
I want to know if I'm on that list of, supposedly alt-right people from the U.S. who are banned. I honestly don't know, when Starmer was talking about it, who from the United States is going. I've heard Tommy Robinson before. Sometimes I agree with what he says. I think he's got a strident way of saying it. Sometimes I don't. But yeah, we should all be patriotic and able to fly a flag and celebrate the Union Jack and the Cross of St. George.
Oh no, that's racist.
St. David and some.
No,
yeah,
racist.
That's what I find, as an American of English descent, I find just extraordinary the way in which patriotism in Britain has gone from 1945 to today, sort of on a straight downward trajectory. There ought to be some things we can agree on. I know that we have a proud history and hopefully an exciting future. So, maybe this event is going to be about things and have people say things that I don't agree with. But the general idea of being proud to be British should be something that everybody in Britain shares. Surely.
Yeah.
Well, and certainly when you mention the end of the war, think about Vera Lynn. They'll always be in England. Whenever I hear that, I want to bring tears to my eyes. They'll always be in England. Well, not really anymore.
I heard her sing once.
Oh, you did, yeah.
The Royal Tournament. It was like 1982 in the Queen's box, and she sang. She was about 80-something at the time. But yeah, she had a great set of pipes.
Yeah, sorry, Bev, I interrupted you.
No, it doesn't matter. We're just going to take a very quick break. Remember, we don't have any adverts here, but we do have to show you the weather. But still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
But now, NHS waiting lists are coming down. Child poverty is coming down. Immigration is coming down.
It's not all bad for Sir Keir Starmer's premiership. There are some decent things that have happened actually in the last nearly 2 years. But of course, they've been overshadowed by all of the other stuff. We're going to get the thoughts in just a minute on a former minister on how he thinks Starmer has done. Quick look at your weather first. This is Bev, only on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning. Yes, it's weather update time from the Met Office here on GB News. A chilly start out there for many of us today. There's quite a few showers around across Scotland and they'll be spreading south. So it's a mixture of sun and showers really through the day. A bright start in the south, but it is quite cold. Temperatures only slowly rising. A chill in the breeze as well, which is coming in from the northwest, pushing this band of showery rain across northern England into Wales and across the Midlands. A mixture of sunshine and showers will follow, but the showers tending to fade from central Scotland and Northern Ireland this afternoon. So some good spells of sunshine here, but temperatures struggling, only really in the low to maybe mid-teens across the south, but clouding over here through the course of the afternoon. Still a few showers to come across eastern England into this evening time. Not too many in the southwest, so generally here we'll see some fine weather to end the day, as we will across Wales. But again, quite quickly those temperatures dropping away. That chilly air coming in from the northwest, and also by this evening more showers packing in across western Scotland with, yes, a little bit of snow over the tops of the mountains, but some sunny spells across eastern Scotland. As we go through the evening, we'll see more of these showers tending to drift south, so returning to northern England as we go through the evening. More widespread across Northern Ireland also, and eventually some cropping up across North Wales. Much of the south, though, becoming dry, lengthy clear spells here. Not quite as cold as last night because there's more more cloud around and more breeze, but there could still easily be some pockets of frost here and there. Most towns and cities dropping to about 5 to 7 Celsius. But a chilly feel on Wednesday, and more showers to come, I suspect, tomorrow as well. Maybe again dry, sunny start across the southeast, but generally expect showers tomorrow. And tomorrow's showers likely to be pretty heavy. Hail and thunder mixed in for good measure also. And again, with the winds coming in from the north or northwest, that is going to bring a chilly feel, despite some sunny spells between the showers. Temperatures below average, 10 to 14 Celsius. Goodbye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
And there are millions of people in that boat, millions of people who don't get the dignity, the respect, the chance that they deserve to go as far as their talent and effort should take them. Millions of people held back because the status quo in this country does not work for them. I am fighting for them. We are fighting for them. I am their Prime Minister and this is their government. Because I know whose side I'm on.
Well, probably not for that much longer is he going to be their Prime Minister. Some people said that was Sir Keir Starmer being very animated today. It was sort of animated for him, but was it the final death throes? Get the thoughts of former Immigration Minister under a Conservative government now, Kevin Foster. Kevin, very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Your thoughts initially, first of all, on that speech that Sir Keir Starmer gave this morning. It was so important that he got it right, did he?
No, I think you only have to look at the media and all the front pages in the UK today, which are pretty dreadful for the PM. You know, virtually every page saying is on his way. And part of it just seems to have been quite a bizarre analysis he came up with. He looked at the fact that places like Sunderland, Wigan, Barnsley, Tameside had voted for reform, and parts of London and some other marginal areas like Swindon had voted Conservative, and concluded that the problem was that people wanted a more pro-European set of policies. Well, that clearly was highly unlikely to have been what anyone was voting for. But similarly, many Labour MPs who this evening seem to have concluded that what they also were voting for was that actually they voted for Nigel Farage and partly for Kemi Badenoch, was that they did that vote because they wanted a really left-wing Labour Party. Well, if that's your conclusion out of last week's results, all I can say to you is enjoy the next 3 years. But, you know, when a general election finally comes, you may as well pack your office up now.
It's a good job we can laugh, Kevin, isn't it? Because it's like so exasperating. But a few of my pundits today have said that this is because he was talking to his backbenchers, he was talking to his MPs, because he can like hear the swinging of the guillotine in the background. It's about to come, the axe is coming down, and he's just trying to talk to them. But as usual, is that not the Prime Minister talking to his little Westminster echo chamber and not to the nation? And that pretty much sums up where he's gone wrong.
Absolutely, sum it up very well, Bev. The problem you've got is there's sort of two distinct groups: traditional Labour voters and those who've become Labour MPs. Now, if you went back 40 or 50 years ago, you'd find a lot of people on the Labour benches who were former shop stewards, had come up through the trade union movement, perhaps been a Labour councillor, and then got into Westminster. Many of having worked on the shop floor, worked in the mines, you know, that sort of very traditional Labour representative. Now, most of them will be people who were graduates, worked in the public sector, for lobbying companies. There's some quite big figures about how many Labour MPs worked for that sort of organisation. And that's not exactly in touch with your average person living on a council estate in Barnsley or in Sunderland. And that disconnect is the problem. He's trying to appeal to Labour MPs who, let's be honest, many of them would actually quite like the Labour Party to go down a path of arguing to rejoin the EU. Yet at the same point, their main problem is they're getting politically trashed in places that voted decisively to leave it and haven't really changed their view on that point. So that was the issue today. And I think some of the reaction we've seen from Labour MPs was almost incredulous that, you know, this is what you've come up with as the big fight back, the big response. And you know, it looks like he's pretty toast.
And Kevin, if we look at the runners and riders who are standing in the wings, if you've got Angela Rayner versus Wes Streeting with potentially, but with various hoops to jump through, which may be too difficult, Andy Burnham. Which of those three represents this would represent Labour in 2026 that the public want, that a true Labour voter wants?
Well, I think looking at the runners and riders, and by the way, it says to the point of the Labour Party's problem. They got 400 MPs, and they're looking at one of their elected mayors about how they can get him back in to try and have leadership. And it doesn't say a lot for their parliamentary party that's where they're going to. By the way, I think a by-election. Look at the results, and it'd be known he's doing this to be Labour leader. There'd be plenty of voters who'd be only too happy to throw a spanner in that works in the by-election concern. But
it's very risky strategy.
Looking at them, the problem is three of them, the one names you've just given, all represent a conclusion that people fundamentally voted for Reform and Nigel Farage, or in London, the Conservative Party and Kemi Badenoch, because they wanted a more left-wing Labour Party. It's almost laughable when you think about it. The only one I can think of in their senior leadership that would actually give some potential challenge to both Reform and the Conservatives would be if they went down the path of Shabana Mahmood with a view to resolving the issues in the Channel. Now, I'm not talking another slogan, another natty PR campaign, or another gimmick like flying off a drone or trying to stop boat engines or whatever it is, like a lot of the things I find myself talking about. If they could actually implement a solution, and you're in the US, you can see what Trump's done on the southern border. They actually implemented a solution, one, that would buy them a lot of credibility, and two, give them a lot of opportunity to move the conversation on to other issues like health, education, the economy, where actually they could start appealing back to those Labour voters they've lost and saying to them, and do you really like what the Conservative Party or Reform are putting up on those issues, rather than the conversations dominated by immigration? You're going to be finding people walking away. But are Labour MPs up for that? Probably not. I suspect they'll want to retreat into an ideological comfort zone. And I think they're going to find out what me and many of my colleagues found out in the last Parliament, that if you change the face, but you don't change the agenda, you're going to get exactly the same poll ratings very soon.
Let me ask you my favourite fun question of the night, Kevin, while we've got you. This is a classic Late Show Live question. Which of them would get on better with President Trump? Angela Rayner, Wes Streeting, Andy Burnham, or Shabana Mahmood?
I think it'd probably be Angela Rayner. There's a lot of similarities in how they act, how they behave. They've both had numerous headlines about what they've said about their opponents. I suspect Angela will be the most likely to get on well with President Trump because they've got similar styles, even though they've got drastically different policies and approaches. But their actual approach, when you think about it, is very similar. So it'd probably be Angela Rayner would be the one that would be likely to get on the best with Donald Trump, although in a way that would probably have a lot of our diplomatic corps, sort of like, gripping their desk as they met.
You're so right. You're so right. Kevin Foster, thank you so much for joining us there, former immigration minister. That is brilliant. It's still, that's what I'm going to be thinking about tomorrow when Starmer comes out, when all this unravels. Who's going to end up being here, Hillary, in the White House, where I'm going to be stood there with a microphone, me and Ben Leo watching the dynamic and going, is this going to work? Yes. I genuinely want to see Angela Rayner in a room with President Trump.
Yeah, no, I think that would actually be frightfully entertaining.
It would be very entertaining.
Yes, I think it would.
Would it be in the best interest?
I think she can hold her own too.
Yeah, she gives very few cares, let's put it that. It's late at night, but I still can't swear. She doesn't have many to give, and so I think he would respect that about her, because she'd just be completely honest and she'd tell him what she thought.
She might respect that she's doing what she thinks is right for her party and for her country, but at the end of the day, he wants her to do what's good for us, right? We want to be able to use your bases if we have a war going on.
True.
We don't want you to give the Chagos Islands away to the Chinese and billions of dollars with it. So there's some pretty transactional stuff once they have the love fest that we're going to worry about that are more important to President Trump.
be politically aligned and good for the US.
Yeah, let me bring in Jonathan and Benjamin Busworth as well down the line. I just want to reflect for a minute on one of the lines which has stayed with me from the show tonight, Benjamin, which was from Louise Mensch saying that Andy Burnham is very far left.
Yes,
do you see him like... I've never got that impression of Andy Burnham.
Yeah,
Benjamin, do you see him like that?
No, Andy Burnham is whatever he wants you to hear, he will say. And the evidence of that is that he's run for Labour leader twice before. In 2010, he was the right-winger to the sort of harsh Blairite. And in 2015, when Corbyn entered the race, he tried to be the lefty halfway through the process. Andy Burnham is a self-interested, hypocritical opportunist. And that's why one thing Keir Starmer got right is to not think much of him. The fact is, he had the same opportunity everyone else did to go and be a Labour MP. But he didn't, because he knew he wasn't going to get the job of PM when Keir Starmer was in the leadership, so he wanted to keep the Manchester mayoralty because it's comfortable. And one more thing, I can tell you, loads of Labour MPs in Greater Manchester cannot stand Andy Burnham because he is so self-obsessed.
Well, he isn't here to defend himself, Jonathan Liss. You can defend him if you like. I remember having a conversation with Andy Burnham. It must have been 2015 when Corbyn had just been elected, and he said, I'm going to Manchester, and he said, the Labour Party is dead here for the next 10 years. And he was right. I mean, it was a bit less than that in the end, but he was right, Jonathan, about that.
I mean, I think a lot of people on the left actually respected Burnham because, unlike a lot of people who stood for leader and a lot of people on the centre or the right of the Labour Party, he actually served in Corbyn's shadow cabinet. I think he was the shadow Home Secretary for a while before he left.
Yeah, because he's a charlatan with no politics. He'll do anything to try and remain relevant. He's everything that's wrong with the Labour Party.
Or because he's a team player who recognised that the Labour Party had made a decision and he was going to try and build a coalition and not just sort of surrender the ground. And I think that was one of a lot of applause, actually, from people in the Labour Party. And then, obviously, he went to become the mayor of Manchester because, presumably for the reason that you said, Bev, he didn't see that there was necessarily a future for him. And so he's, a successful politician.
I just think he felt. I think he felt like his time was going to be better spent outside of Westminster because he felt like he didn't agree with Corbyn's vision of the country at that time.
I think that.
Listen, I've loved tonight. We've got to go. Jonathan, Benjamin, Simon, Hilary, thank you all so much, and thank you for all your involvement at home. It's been a very busy inbox. See you tomorrow night.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning. Yes, it's weather update time from the Met Office here on GB News. A chilly start out there for many of us today. There's quite a few showers around across Scotland and they'll be spreading south. So it's a mixture of sun and showers really through the day. A bright start in the south, but it is quite cold. Temperatures only slowly rising. A chill in the breeze as well, which is coming in from the northwest, pushing this band of showery rain across northern England into Wales and across the Midlands. A mixture of sunshine and showers will follow, but the showers tending to fade from central Scotland and Northern Ireland this afternoon. So some good spells of sunshine here, but temperatures struggling only really in the low to maybe mid-teens across the south, but clouding over here through the course of the afternoon. Still a few showers to come across eastern England into this evening time. Not too many in the southwest, so generally here we'll see some fine weather to end the day, as we will across Wales. But again, quite quickly those temperatures dropping away. That chilly air coming in from the northwest, and also by this evening more showers packing in across western Scotland with, yes, a little bit of snow over the tops of the mountains, but some sunny spells across eastern Scotland. As we go through the evening, we'll see more of these showers tending to drift south, so returning to northern England as we go through the evening. More widespread across Northern Ireland also, and eventually some cropping up across North Wales. Much of the south, though, becoming dry, lengthy clear spells here. Not quite as cold as last night because there's more cloud around and more breeze, but there could still easily be some pockets of frost here and there. Most towns and cities dropping to about 5 to 7 Celsius. But a chilly feel on Wednesday, and more showers to come, I suspect, tomorrow as well. Maybe again dry, sunny start across the southeast, but generally expect showers tomorrow. And tomorrow's showers likely to be pretty heavy. Hail and thunder mixed in for good measure also. And again, with the winds coming in from the north or northwest, that is going to bring a chilly feel, despite some sunny spells between the showers. Temperatures below average, 10 to 14 Celsius. Goodbye.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the
unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's new